All right, good morning. It is a Monday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. I'm Glenn. He's Griffin. Did we ever actually have a nickname for Grant when he was here? Or did we just call him Grant? That was lame. What are we doing there? Griffin's going to be out later this week, so Grant's he's here. I don't know if you're going to see him or not, but he's here. Just trying to remember how to do this.
He'll be taking my turn a little bit.
How do we trust that?
I trust you.
All right. I don't know. Let's see how it goes. Oh, hell, I trust you. Jeez. Anyway, we got a lot to do today. Coming up in a few minutes, Anish Shroff.
He's going to do worse?
I don't know. I don't know if it's possible. From ESPN, Anish was on the call for both the Orioles game on Saturday on ESPN Radio. He made a weekend out of it in Baltimore. And then he stuck around on Sunday to do the NCAA Lacrosse quarterfinals over at Towson. So we'll talk to him about all of it. Also this morning, we'll preview the Cardinals. Mark Sweeney, color analyst for the Cardinals, will join us as the Orioles get ready to play the disappointing St. Louis Cardinals this week. And also this morning, we'll apparently check in with Jeremy Kahn, which I'm surprised by because I thought he was on the spaceship. I thought that was the deal for his trip out to Denver, is that he was going to be.
I'll make sure.
Did you talk to him or not?
I mean,
why did you just tell me that he's good if you haven't actually talked to him?
All right, I'll figure it out.
Dude. I say, is he definitely good? It's not because I know that we talk to him every Monday. We also knew that he was on vacation and doing like a lot of drugs. That was the plan. I mean, not illegal drugs, just, drugs.
Right.
So I'm not going to have this conversation right now. We'll save this for another time. Hi, Glenn Clark Radio. Here's the board. Gunnar Henderson goes back up. I need the marker. Where's the marker?
Right behind your laptop.
Right behind my laptop. Nice. Gunnar Henderson gets a third star for the season as he was man of the match on Friday night. Could have been man of the match yesterday with another home run. Look, the reality is I didn't get to watch the game yesterday. I was in New York. I thought that it would work out that I would be able to watch it on my phone. The problem is that the app that I used to make sure I knew where I was going in New York yesterday sucked up all of the battery. Never seen anything like it.
I thought you knew New York well enough that you.
Yeah, sure. With a group of 8 people, half of which can't speak English. Sure, no problem. But I said, good person that I am, I'll just get everybody around. No problem. I'll take care of it. So I download the City Mapper app, which was wonderful. Let me start with that. I can't recommend that enough. Trying to get from place to place in New York, trying to figure out, how do I walk from Penn Station to Times Square? Then how do we get from Times Square? Couldn't recommend the City Mapper app enough. It's tremendous. The problem is you need to bring, an extra battery for your phone because it goes right through it. So that was awkward. I didn't get to watch. It was a bummer, but I put it to. I'm down below the table now.
I see.
If anybody's wondering. Is the microphone falling on top of me?
It is, yeah.
This is going well.
I'm wondering.
This is going well today. Today, everything is going exactly as planned. So, hi, I'm good. I'm here. All good. Don't worry about me. I got this. So anyway, the moral of the story is I put it to social media because I then later I watched the condensed version of the game.
Those are fantastic.
Those are great. I don't disagree with that. So I at least have some idea of what I was talking about. But in the meantime, I decided to put it to social media, and I said, y'all can decide who man of the match is. And I thought everybody would choose Colton Cowser because, again, Moo. Everybody loves that. But most of the votes actually came in for Corbin Burns. So Corbin Burns gets his third star of the season. And the two of them now tied for second place behind Cole Irvin for most man of the match, along with Jordan Westberg and Grayson Rodriguez.
Which everyone saw coming.
Exactly right. Cole Irvin killing everybody.
Man of the
Team
year.
MVP. That's exactly what we all expected. So right now, that's what we got. So both of them go up on the board for the weekend as the Orioles take 2 out of 3 from the Mariners. The bummer, of course, being it was a fine weekend, and the Orioles did what they needed to do, I guess. But you almost can't help but think about Saturday, when they're up 2-0 late, and the chances they had to add more and didn't do it, and then the bullpen faltering after a tremendous start for Grayson Rodriguez. So that was a big bummer. Kind of no way around that. We'll get into 3 up, 3 down a little bit later on in the program, and I don't know, it's tough. I feel like there's a lot of recency bias when we do 3 up and 3 down. Like, you just sort of think about the things that happened most recently and not as much about the things that happened earlier on in the week. It's a difficult thing, but we'll get into that a little bit later on. As far as this weekend's concerned, I see a lot of people, like, losing their minds about Corbin Burnes again getting pulled after 6 innings. It's not like he was at 80 pitches. He was at 94 pitches. I get that, like, Corbin Burnes is the guy that, like, our vision is you're going to work him into the ground because you know he's not going to be around moving forward. Like, I understand that, but you still want him to work through, ideally, the end of October. Like, you're not trying to throw his arm off in the process. Could he have gone back out to start the 7th? Maybe. I don't think that that's ultimately... They are going to go to a 6-man rotation where Corbin Burnes is still going to start every 5th day. And they've openly acknowledged that. That wasn't just our theory that that's what they were going to do. Brandon Hyde has said directly that's the plan. They're going to go to a 6-man rotation, but they're going to keep Corbin Burnes pitching every 5th day. Is it possible that Corbin Burnes and his camp, Scott Boras, have said, hey, we need to be careful. This is what we think is appropriate. Like, is it possible? Sure, it's possible. But it's also possible the Orioles are just trying to protect making sure they have Corbin Burnes for the rest of the season. You get to October, and Corbin Burnes is cruising through 6 innings in a playoff game, and they pull him. Yeah, we'll talk. But right now, we're just bitching for the sake of bitching. Like, there's no... If he's at 83 pitches yesterday, I understand the conversation a little bit more. Hey, why wouldn't you try to get him back out there for a 7th inning? And a week ago, I understood the conversation a little bit more when they needed to answer, like, hey, he said he was feeling fatigued. Wasn't it 85 at the last start that they pulled him?
Yes, yeah, the last start was...
Right, and they had to give... that. You needed an answer. Needing an answer for why you pulled somebody after 94 pitches, even Corbin Burnes, like it or not, there's still a we got to do what's best to make sure this guy pitches the entirety of the season for us factor going on here. So I'm not going to join you in screaming about that. Again, some of this is just we need something to bitch about. Or for some of you, it's that, like, you've just decided for whatever unbelievable reason you don't like Brandon Hyde. And I'll never in my life understand it. Or somehow you think you know better or whatever it is. It's big brain stuff, man. And you know who you are, and I like a lot of you. A lot of you are my friends. But, like, it's bizarre-ass. The team's winning. We got to bitch about something. I'll decide that I just don't like the manager. I don't understand it. I don't know that I think that every decision that's ever been made is correct. Nobody ever will be. I don't think that Joe Torre got every decision correct. But my God, like, it's just bizarro world. All the team ever does is win. My guy Derek, who runs the Utah Steer Report, calls him meat manager. I'm like, what is that?
What does that mean?
What is that? Like, what? I'll never get it. I'll never in my life understand the negativity towards Brandon Hyde.
Are these the same people that want to fire Harbaugh no matter what?
No, it's a different group of people. Those people exist too. Like, these people, I've had theories about this, that, like, you decide you don't like the coaches because you don't own their jerseys. Like, I've had lots of theories about it over the years. It's easier to criticize a manager than it is to criticize a player. Like, I've been through a million different phases or variations of this, but none of them actually make sense. The team wins. Does that mean that everything the manager does is correct or the coach does is correct? Of course not. But imagine that's what you do today. Like, imagine genuinely believing that the difference in the Orioles, who, again, checks notes, are really good, and another manager would be really gooder? Like, you know what's holding the Orioles back? Again, let's repeat that out loud. You know what's holding the team that's 29-15 back? It's the manager. By the way, I didn't realize that the Yankees suddenly stopped losing. It's frustrating.
I mean, yeah, they lost. What was it? They lost. I saw the stat. They lost 3 or 4 to the Orioles.
Yeah,
and then they're like 11-2 or something since then. Something like that. It's
I didn't notice that.
Nobody else is beating
until I was in New York, and then was talking to somebody. We went to the MLB, whatever you call that, MLB New York, the big baseball store that they do. We went there, and somebody in there was talking to me about it. I was bitching about the fact they had a yellow Orioles hat. They were selling a yellow Orioles hat.
Did you get it?
No, of course I didn't effing get it.
Why was it yellow?
I don't. But it's what I said. I was revolted by it. I said, why is there a yellow Orioles hat? And this dude, he was cool. Comes by, he's like, hey man, in New York, we're just kind of into different things. And I'm like, right, you shouldn't be. You should be ashamed of yourself. And then we started talking, and he was a New Yorker, and we started having a whole conversation. And he was like, you guys are good, but I don't know, man. Now that Judge is getting going, I'm like, yeah, so you can hit pop flies for home runs. God bless you. Enjoy. Whole thing. All right, don't we have a guest?
Yeah, we do.
We're not good at the clock here. We gotta tighten up on that. Today's show brought to you by your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines, so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today. And don't forget, they are proud sponsors of County Sports Zone. Congratulations to Boys Latin. They won the A Conference. I believe Curly won the B Conference. You can find out more about everything in championship season for high school sports by going to countysports.zone. Countysports.zone, again, is the website to check it all out. All right. We'll get to 3 up and 3 down. Get me your responses at Glenn Clark Radio on Twitter. I have wavered. I've gone back and forth on who should be on those lists. Struggled with who should be where. Get me yours at Glenn Clark Radio on Twitter. 3 up and 3 down for a week in which the Orioles went 3-2. Our next guest, unfortunately, called one of the two as he was in Baltimore on Saturday to do the game for ESPN Radio, and then he stuck around, made a whole weekend out of it as he was at Towson yesterday for the NCAA Lacrosse quarterfinals. We'll talk to him about all of it. He is Anish Shroff, and he is with us once again here on GCR. Anish, it's Glenn. It's great to chat with you as always, man. Thank you for taking the time for us this morning.
Good to be with you, Glenn. How are you?
I'm all right, man. Nice little weekend in Baltimore. You get enough crab cakes while you were here?
I did not have a single crab cake. How pathetic is that?
Yeah, what are you doing, man? You ate.
What am I doing?
You ate those god awful Sour Patch Oreos, but you didn't have a single crab cake?
Oreo singular, not plural.
Yeah, those are terrible, man. Like, they are
terrible.
Truly awful. By the way, I brought some home because we tried them on the radio show. My children love them. Like, they begged me to go out and get another pack of them because they killed them in, like, the span of, I want to say, a week. And now I just don't understand the world. Like, I'll never understand what the point of these things are.
I just remember when I was handed one. So Kevin Brown, Baltimore Orioles play-by-play guy, 7th inning stretch. They're in the adjacent booth from us. And he gives the window a little knock, and I see him holding up the packet of Sour Patch Oreos. And he kind of gives me a shoulder shrug, like, you want one?
Right.
And I kind of give him a look, and then he reaches around and he hands me this Oreo cookie, and I'm looking at it, and I said, I kind of gave him a shoulder shrug, and I get it. You know, I'm the guy who dipped an Oreo cookie in mayonnaise and ate it, so people think.
Yeah, correct. You're a psychopath.
I'll go ahead and right. Yeah, you've already crossed that line. I'll go ahead and I'll eat the Sour Patch Oreo, but I realize there is a place where I do draw the line, and Sour Patch Oreos. I just got to be honest, it's not it.
They offer nothing to society. I give them credit for being what they do, what they advertise. Like, they are legitimate. They taste like a Sour Patch Oreo. It's just I don't understand why any human has ever asked for that. That's my
again, it's that meme, right? Nobody, and then here's the Sour Patch Oreo.
That's exactly what it is. Exactly correct. So let me talk a little bit about the Orioles because, we might not be able to have you for another game this season. Anish, you know how this goes, right? Like, how dare you call the one that they lost. but just all of it, right? Like, as you were doing your work leading up, how good this team is. Grayson Rodriguez on Saturday was phenomenal. And to me, that's the craziest part about this team is that we came in saying, boy, this offense is going to be really good, but we were a little bit nervous about the starting pitching because Bradish and Means were hurt starting the season. The starting pitching is they are legitimately – they're going to a six-man rotation in part because of the off days, but in part also because there's no one to kick out of the rotation right now because they're all so good.
One of the iron axioms of baseball is you can never have too much pitching, especially starting pitching. And they have too much starting pitching to the point where Cole Irvin, who has arguably been their best starter over these last few weeks and has pitched real well, he's pitching the best baseball of his life, he was put into the bullpen now for the last weekend. So they have too much starting pitching. It's a good problem to have.
Yes.
I think Rodriguez has the potential, and you saw it the second half of last season when he got called back up from the minors. He has the potential to be a frontline starter, a guy that you can hand the ball to in a game two of a series and feel really good about that he can go dominate a lineup. He's improved. We know what Burns is. Bradish has turned into a really, really strong, reliable starter. And what Baltimore has is they have now the prospect depth to go out and get whatever piece they need, whether it's a late-inning bullpen arm, whether it's two late-inning bullpen arms, even if it's another starting pitcher who they feel can fortify the back end of the rotation and give you essentially a frontline guy that slots in at number 3 or number 4. They have the depth to do that because, again, they've got prospects who are being blocked by other young players at the major league level. To me, I look at this team and I just think, okay, this trade deadline might be more significant for Baltimore than maybe any other team in baseball because it's been so long since they've been to a World Series. They are in a window. I know the Yankees are playing well, and I know the Astros are coming, and they're on a roll again in the AL West, and Cleveland's been off to a good start. But to me, Baltimore's the team to beat in the American League, and they have the pieces to go solve whatever potential problems they have when you get to June, July, and essentially put together a super roster for the fall.
I guess the weird part is that, again, I'm not concerned about the offense, Anish, but as you say, the pieces they need, it's been weird that it's been so reliant on home runs. And I don't know that that's a problem per se because you hit a lot of home runs, but they haven't gotten on base the way. Like, it's weird that the thought process comes back to, hey, I do think they're going to need to fortify the bullpen for sure, but I'm also not sure that they're not going to be looking into the market to add one more bat that could maybe be a little bit more than sort of an all or nothing type of hitter.
Yeah, and again, that might be an internal solution. Maybe a guy like Jackson Holliday who struggled in his first cup of coffee. Maybe he gets that second chance, and all of a sudden, oh, hey, we got another impact player who happens to be the best prospect in baseball. So it might come from within. They can go externally. The one thing about that lineup, they don't walk. I think they were last in the American League, and only the Marlins in all of Major League Baseball walked less coming into the weekend. But if you start to really deep dive into it, and then you saw a guy from Seattle do it on this past weekend in Andres Munoz. You got guys now throwing 99-mile-per-hour sinkers, right? And then turn signal sliders off of that. When you have that, how patient can you realistically be? And I've heard this from a couple of other baseball skippers. You know, I've done a handful now of radio games for Major League Baseball this year, and they all say the same thing. You know, we're not as concerned about the lack of walks as we once were, because if you get behind in counts, the way modern pitching is set up, you're basically asking for a punch-out. And if you go back 20 years or so, 25 years, when Moneyball first came out, and everybody said in the aftermath of that, hey, batting average isn't important. It's about on-base percentage, it's about getting on base. Well, it's funny. That was trying to find a market inefficiency, but the way the game has changed now, where you have these high strikeout pitchers and everybody's throwing 95, 99, batting average is important again. Putting the ball in play is important again. So are they too reliant on the home run? Yes. I would argue most teams are, given the way modern pitching sets up.
That's fair. It still seems like, and I did the math a week ago, and I haven't double-checked it, like, it still seems like teams with this low of an on-base percentage haven't won the World Series. Like, it's just, like, I think there have been 2 with a sub-319 on-base percentage since the turn of the century. Actually, sorry, 1 with a sub-319 on-base percentage since the turn of the century that's won a World Series. Like, that's the part that kind of remains tricky to me, is that, like, I just don't know that you can always count on turning those into home runs.
And again, that's fair, and you see that. But I think I saw somewhere a few years ago, it might have been when the Braves won the World Series, where I think there's a trend: the team that generally hits the most home runs in October is the team that also wins World Series. So
yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, make sure you're hitting them then. That's the time you got to make sure that they're coming. Anish Shroff is with us from ESPN. Of course, he was in town for a bunch of stuff this weekend, including he was at Towson yesterday for the quarterfinals. Anish, I don't want to obsess over the replay thing because I don't think it's the story of why Hopkins lost. I think it was quite apparent they got it wrong, and I think it's more than okay to be frustrated about why do you have replay if everyone is seeing something. Like we saw it on Saturday, and I know you were able to watch on Saturday because of the rain delay, which is cool. But we saw it on Saturday with the Maryland thing and then making sure they got it right, despite the fact that Danowski was very upset that they got it right. But, like, I don't think it's a good look for the sport that we all see the same thing. Like, we're all looking at it, and you can say, hey, well, you know, the color of the line, it is kind of – no, we all saw. Like, we all saw the toe is on the – it's there. And I don't think it's good for the sport that you have that and you don't get it right.
Yeah, my pushback here would be, you know, one, I would say when I watched that replay multiple times, and again, we're watching it off a much smaller monitor, my initial reaction and Quint's initial reaction, Quint Kesnick, the analyst, was, I think he's in the crease. It looks like he's in the crease, right? But the way, again, the verbiage and the letter of the rule sets it up is, okay, is it indisputable? And if there is even a shred of doubt, and again, you got a blue line on a green field, a white shoe, and as you zoom in, it gets blurry. And it's the same thing we see in college football and the NFL time and time again, right? Where you're going to default to the call on the field if you just don't have enough evidence. And sometimes it looks overwhelming, and it might be 99% conclusive. And I think this was one of these cases where I'm watching it, I'm going, yeah, it looks like he's in the crease. I think he's in the crease. I'm pretty sure he's in the crease. But 100%, is there that 100%, line of demarcation that's crossed? No. And so that's why the call stands. If that had been called no goal on the field, crease violation, and then you go and review that, it's the same result. The call stands. They're not going to overturn it. So I think it's a reminder that the call on the field is still important. I think it'll be better championship weekend just because we'll have more cameras. Had we had the camera in the goal, I think you would have been able to see it very clearly. If we had Skycam, you might have been able to see it very clearly. We'll have more bells and whistles when we get to championship weekend. But, yeah, it's kind of one of those where, yeah, I think if you're watching, most people watching have the same reaction we did, which is what we said. I think he's in the crease. It looks like he's in the crease. But, again, that 100% level of certainty, you probably couldn't get to that threshold. If you're a fan, of course you can because it's your team. But from an official's viewpoint, yeah, there's that little inch of doubt. The call on the field will stand. So it's kind of one of those things. You see it in football. You see it in the NFL. And, again, for Johns Hopkins, what do they go almost 30 minutes without scoring?
Oh, yeah, that's on them.
They didn't
right.
score.
Yeah.
And I thought that they had a chance, too. What was it, the end of overtime, 10 seconds, and they just kind of held up. And then you're going, I think I said why
right.
on the air,
right.
Trying to figure out what they did. They couldn't handle Virginia's ride. They couldn't clear. That was a game they probably should have won. And lack of attention to details, lack of the ability to clear against the ride, and then just some mental miscues late cost them.
Yeah, no question about it. Like, no, they have nobody to blame but themselves for the fact that they're not playing on championship weekend. I still struggle with the whole. It'll be a conversation that we'll have eternally, Anish, about replay. We will never end up ending this conversation because these things will always come up. I'll move forward. By the way, are you doing the games again this weekend?
Yeah, we'll have the semis on Saturday and then the championship game Monday.
So I'll ask it broadly. As good as these other teams are, is Notre Dame really just like a notch above everybody else left in the field at this point?
It feels like it did with Maryland 2 years ago.
Yeah.
In 2022, when Maryland was just this powerhouse juggernaut that blowtorched the field and, basically had Cornell dead to rights until they got tired, because that game they had a rain delay on Saturday, if you recall, and I think the legs started to give out. But Maryland was as dominant a team as we've seen in a long time in the sport. Notre Dame is right up there with that Maryland team in terms of dominance, in terms of depth. To me, if Notre Dame gets to Monday, they become incredibly difficult to beat because of their depth.
Yeah.
It's short rest. They can run 3 midfield lines. Their third midfield line in the ACC tournament was scoring against Duke and Virginia's first team defense.
Yep.
That's how good they are.
Yep.
And when you look at a team like Virginia, for example, they don't really have anything beyond the first midfield. Maryland, which has been better offensively in this NCAA tournament, offense has been a struggle at times this season, especially down the stretch. They don't have the depth that some of John Tillman's best teams did. Denver is kind of intriguing because on Saturday you get Denver, Notre Dame, and if you look at Notre Dame's one loss, it was really the perfect elixir, the perfect cocktail that Georgetown put together in the regular season, where they played this sleepy, slow, low possession game. They controlled the ball. Notre Dame had some careless turnovers. Notre Dame, watched Georgetown play deep into the shot clock and then score inside of 10 seconds on the shot clock. That's how Denver plays. So if Denver can follow that blueprint, maybe they can hang and maybe they got a shot. But if they get down 3-4 goals early and now all of a sudden they've got to speed up, that can go sideways really fast.
So because you brought up Maryland before I let you go, I don't know what to say, because my God, man, like you said, their offense has come to life. Their offense has come to life for a couple of quarters, but like in the first half, they couldn't just put the possession together. They turned the ball over on almost every possession. The John Tillman thing, we really are starting to get into Tom Izzo and March like territory with how to explain how it is that a team that looked frankly pedestrian, and I wasn't even angry at the folks that said I don't think they deserve to be a seed. Like, I get it. They looked bad late this season, and they looked lost offensively. And in the second quarter on Saturday, I said, all right, well, they did a nice job against Princeton, but this was about right. What John Tillman is able to do in game with these teams in May is really unbelievable, because I don't know how this offense is playing on championship weekend and put together what they did in the fourth quarter on Saturday.
Glenn, he is the best coach in the country, and I don't think it's particularly close.
Wow.
What he has done, and it's not just this year. In my opinion, if you look at the last 15 years, John Tillman has maybe the 2 biggest quarterfinal wins of any coach in the country. 2011, Maryland is playing the number 1 seed Syracuse in the quarterfinals. That is about as loaded a Syracuse team that they've had in 20-something years. The guys who won a title in 08 and 09 are all seniors now. Veteran team. Everybody thought that was the team that was going to win the whole thing. They were going to cap their legacy with a 3rd title. And again, pre-shot clock era, that was a 6-5 game. I call it the Catalino wine mixer. Grant Catalino scored the game winner in overtime. And Maryland shrank the game, possession shots. They knew what they had to do to hang with that Syracuse team, and John Tillman found a way. The team in 2012 that lost to Loyola in the national championship, again, not even close to the talent that Tillman's teams would have in the next few years. Somehow he gets them to a championship. 16, 17, they had really, really strong teams. Obviously, they had great teams in 21 and 22. This team, from a talent standpoint, does not measure up to any of those. And Duke, I'll be honest with you, Duke on paper might have more talent than Notre Dame.
It's nuts.
It's 5 guys drafted into the PLL. And John Tillman, again, put on a coaching clinic and found a way to beat that Duke team. Man to man, if you're doing a draft of players from Duke and Maryland, it's so lopsided. It's so lopsided. And I've covered Duke quite a bit this season. They were baffling to me that a team that good with generational talent and a legitimate bona fide, not superstar, megastar, and Brennan O'Neill could lose 6 games, returning the amount of experience they did. They're good on defense. They're good everywhere. I watched that game during the rain delay, and I just go, John Tillman and May. My gosh, John Tillman and May. Beating Princeton is one thing, even though I thought Princeton was going to win. Duke is, again, it's not the best team in the country. Notre Dame is, but in terms of talent, they're right up there with Notre Dame. And for a Maryland team that was shorthanded, banged up, and again, still finding its way here to beat that Duke team with a semifinal berth at stake. You can't convince me otherwise. John Tillman is the best coach in the country.
And it's worth pointing out, it helps to win faceoffs, obviously. Like in this sport.
Well, and they've got a guy. Yeah. They've got, again, Luke Weirman, Ajax Sapatello, and Logan McNaney.
Yep.
They have 3 guys who can keep you in games. You got a guy who can control possessions. You have an apex defender, and you've got a goalie who's playing really well right now. They can keep you in games while your offense figures it out.
And Weirman was their offense in the first half. Like,
he was.
He was the reason they weren't utterly lost. No, it's wild, man. It's incredible. Anish, we can't wait, obviously, for this Saturday up in Philadelphia. Games will start at noon. They're ESPN 2 for Saturday, correct?
ESPN 2 Saturday, and then the championship game, thanks to our nice little ratings bump last year, will be back on ESPN on Monday.
Excellent. Anish, always appreciate you, man. Thank you for taking the time for us. Hope you enjoyed your weekend here in Baltimore.
I did. Appreciate you, Glenn. Thanks, buddy.
Anish Shroff with us here on GCR. Appreciate him taking the time for us. Yeah, I mean, we'll talk more lacrosse during the course of the week. Obviously, we'll check in with Maryland again, and Patrick will join us tomorrow, and we'll get his thoughts. But just to sort of wrap it up in a bow here, one, I know what Anish is saying. This goes back to the thing that I always talk about. Mike Pereira, I remember as furious as I was about the stretch that what year was this? 2008, the 2008 Ravens-Steelers game, where it was in December and late in the game, the Ravens were leading and they were dominating defensively. I think it was 9-6 at that point. And then with about a minute left, Santonio Holmes catches a ball in the middle of the field and stretches out. And in no world did it appear as though he had scored a touchdown. But they went back and they looked at it on replay, and this is in 2008, and we didn't have nearly the angles and the technology camera-wise that we have these today. You looked at it and you were like, well, maybe that was a touchdown, like maybe, but it's sure as hell not conclusive. So obviously they're going to keep the call on the field, and he didn't score, and they'll go back out there, and that'll be that. And the Ravens, that was at a time where the Ravens, with that defense, you still believed they were capable of getting stops at the goal line. So they go under the hood and they come back out and they rule a touchdown, and everybody's furious. And there's this huge article in Deadspin, which at the time was like where you went for, boy, it had to be a story one day, the death of Deadspin. But that was the place, and there was this huge article, and I remember it being like, the following things could not be seen on this play. Clear and indisputable. And we always came back to that clear and indisputable evidence. So that year, we had Mike Pereira, who was still at the time the head of officiating for the NFL. He was not with Fox at that point. He was still the top dog for the NFL, did the show from the Super Bowl. And I remember, we didn't get into a fight because, oddly, Mike had come on with us a lot. It was weird that, but what a different world it was at the time where, we could get the head of officiating in the league to do local radio interviews, which just not happen in 2024 But
have we tried?
I don't even know who it is.
Is it? No, it's not about a river on anymore, I guess.
I don't think so. I swear to God, I couldn't tell you who it is. And the league doesn't do a good job. That was part of what they did well, I think, at the time. Florio's written about this. At the time, they liked putting Pereira out there. They liked having him do interviews and be available, and it was a good thing. I genuinely don't know who's the head of officiating these days, because whoever it is does not do much media, if anything at all, because now all these networks have their own like internal officials and they just kind of roll with it. But I remember having Pereira on at the Super Bowl that year.
Ramon George.
Sure. I've never heard of this person. I don't know who that is. I couldn't tell you.
So Walt Anderson was the last 3
years.
I
did know Walt Anderson.
I think we did know that. Walt Anderson was it. So this will be Ramon George's first stint.
So Pereira says, Glenn, you're obsessing over the clear and obvious evidence. That's not the way that I tell my officials to operate. And I was like, well, that's weird because that's what the rule says. I said, no. I said, when you go under the hood, you look and you figure out what the call should be. Get the call right. That's what I want them to do. And I was furious because, again, that's not the way the rule was written. The rule was written that we obsess over clear and obvious. And if it's not clear and obvious, then sorry, we go back to the call on the field. And this moment really did change my opinion about replay and officiating because I learned to appreciate it. Not the call that day. I think they botched that. But I learned to appreciate the idea of we're obsessed with this. Is there any shred? We're treating it like we would treat a jury trial, right? Like if there's any shred of doubt in your mind, the way that Anish just described it, if you're 99.9% sure, that's not good enough. And that 0.1%, if you're 99.9999%, that 0.0001% is enough that you shouldn't overturn the call. That was the way that we treated it in our minds. The way that Mike Pereira told his officials to treat it is get the call right. Go under the hood, see what you see. Don't, and I've said it, do not be slaves to whatever the call was on the field. Go get it right. Go make sure that when you walk out from under the hood that you are describing what happened on the play. And ultimately, that is what I want from officials. I don't want us to be falling back on, well, remember, this is the way that it was called on the field. Those calls are wrong all the time. The point of having replay is to not have to worry about what was called on the field. If you're guessing, I mean, if you're looking at replay and saying, dude, I don't know. I just don't know. Then fine, default to the call on the field. But it felt like, in a way, that was what happened at the plate in the Wednesday afternoon game last week, right? The Santander play.
Right. Where
they're like
the throw.
We think he might be safe, but it's a weird angle, and they called him out on the field, so. You just have to call him out on. That's just the way it's going to have to be. Go in and look at it and try to get the call right. Anybody with a brain could tell they missed the tag. He was safe. It's not your classic safe of you beat the throw. You didn't, but they missed the tag. And yesterday in the Syracuse, not the Syracuse game, that was the first game. The Virginia-Hopkins game, undoubtedly, McCabe Millen was in the crease.
Was it undoubtedly?
Yes, undoubtedly. There's absolutely no doubt whatsoever.
Do you think we'll change the color of the crease line moving forward?
That's a different conversation. A lot of lacrosse people take it very personally that for these big games, there are still football lines on the field. At Hofstra on Saturday, there weren't football lines on the field.
They don't have a football team.
They don't have a football team
anymore? They do not have a football team.
When did they get rid of football?
That's a good question.
Wayne Corbett played at Hofstra, didn't he? I mean, I know that they're not in the CAA, obviously, right, because Townsend. I guess I didn't know they had gotten to get rid of football altogether. Maybe I did, and I just forgot about it. Wayne Corbett played at Hofstra, right? I'm not making that up.
They had a football team.
Yeah, they definitely had a football team. I know that's true. I don't know when they got rid of it.
Shut down in. Oh, shoot.
Grant thinks he's got it. He's got the answer for us. Thank you.
09.
09.
2009.
Yeah. So it's been a little while. So that does obviously make it easier. They wouldn't have football lines down on the field. So does the NCAA have an obligation to play quarterfinal? If you want to host a quarterfinal, you want to host then you gotta be able to say, we will take football lines, all other sport lines off the field. I don't know. It's an interesting. That is interesting to me.
And what about because you'll still see the women's lacrosse lines on a lot of fields too,
Not everybody plays.
Yeah, not everybody, but you'll still on a lot.
I'm trying to think of where specifically you'll see that. Obviously in Philadelphia next weekend, they will not. That's something that changed over the years too. They said, you want to host a Final Four at a football stadium, no problem, but you are not going to have football lines down on the field. The field will be set up for lacrosse. And these NFL stadiums, that's no problem, right? They'll just roll a new turf in if they've got to, or whatever it is they need to do. But it would be interesting, I guess the question would be, what does it mean? What's the math of trying to do those things? Who would be taken out of the equation if those were what the rules were? But I don't blame lacrosse people for being pissed off about it and saying, look, these are the biggest games of the year. These games matter the most. What are we doing? Why in the world can't we just get a field for those games that's for our sport? I don't blame them. Maybe the better way to do it would be to move it into those soccer-specific stadiums because there's at least fewer lines on the field at that point, right? You played all those games and, obviously Audi Field in D.C., Chester, Pennsylvania, where the Union play, the one in New Jersey would be an option. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but I don't blame – and I've heard much, much more of it in the last couple of years from lacrosse players, from people who certainly have some skin in the sport about how infuriated they get by these are the biggest games of the year and you're playing them with football lines. It shouldn't happen. We should be able to find neutral sites where you can play the games without having football lines down on the field. It's over at Stevenson. Don't get anybody started about it because they for years have had all of the sport lines down.
Oh man,
because soccer played there and field hockey played there. So they had every line
of men's lacrosse,
yes, and football. Everything was down on the field. So they moved a couple of the sports off.
Yeah, there's something about that.
Oh, dude, it was tough for broadcasters sometimes. You'd forget which one was the sideline.
You see the soccer player going up the sideline, and it's like, oh, they're still
yeah. There were moments where you were like, right, no, wait, what? A little bit of that every now and then.
Oh, and he dribbles right out of it.
Yeah, what are you doing?
They're still going.
Okay, yeah. My bad. It's awkward a couple of times, but at least it's only a couple of you're not playing the Final Four or not the Final Four, but the Elite Eight. Although I guess that's not true. As Steven said, the Final Four on campus in Division III stays on campus until the championship game. So if Stevenson were to host a national semifinal, they'd be playing it. Not with, soccer and field hockey are gone now, but it's still lacrosse and football. Look, man, I don't have all the answers, and it's something that is above my pay grade. But what I know is McCabe Millen was in the crease, and there's no way around that. He was in the crease. That was a bad call. It's not the reason why Hopkins lost. And that is important to continue saying. They got to blame themselves over that. Just they kind of got lost offensively. And to Anish's point, their clearance game got really shaky. But still, and I would say it the same way, if it had gone in benefit, get it right. Or just have replay to get it right. John Danowski hates replay. It was unquestionable on Saturday in the Maryland-Duke game that, I don't even remember whose shot it was, when Maryland was up 1 in the fourth quarter, it was a goal. It was obvious that it was a goal, and it was nuts that it was called no goal on the field. I don't know how they missed it. It was bad. In fact, I think it was both times. I think both the ball was in the net, it was well into the net, and it looked like the bounce below was still behind the line. It looked like they missed it twice. Now, in replay, I wasn't sure that it was still behind the line, but it was obvious that it hit in the net. There was a no doubt that it was a goal. John Danowski's mad because they in that situation, they wait until after the clear to check the call. Because if it wasn't a goal, they want to be able to play on as much as possible. They want to get you, they don't want to gift the clear. They don't want to gift Maryland a chance to set up their ride coming out of it, so they want to play it on for another couple of seconds before they go back to check. And then John Danowski after the game is mad. Well, we had guys running out on the field, and somebody got ran into on the sideline. Yeah, that's just called being running the box. That's what that is. They got the call right. Plain and simple, they got the call correct. That's the idea of replay. See it, get it right. That's the idea. And that was what was frustrating yesterday. The Maryland thing, I'll let Patrick try to explain it better. They looked incapable offensively in the first half. And for the better part of the third quarter as well. Deep in the third quarter, they were still not closing the gap. They looked inept offensively. They were turning the ball over on 2/3 of their possessions, if not more than that. It was unbelievable. And I was just, hey, this is going to happen. You're playing Duke. This is not a particularly good Maryland team.
I was upset because Maryland was getting 3.5 or 4.5, I think, and I was this is stupid. I have to take Maryland getting this many points.
Well, then they're down 5-1 in the first quarter.
What am I thinking?
Right,
what am I thinking?
Right. This is just
and then by the end of the game, I was like, why didn't I bet money line?
Right.
Obviously.
Right. And as much as we credit John Tillman, and we should because it's unbelievable, but it does start with it's something that you hate boiling down the sport of lacrosse to the face-off dot. You hate that because you don't want the game to all be about one area. But my God, does it change everything. And on a day where Maryland could do nothing offensively, Luke Wehrman just kept winning face-offs and buying them enough time. And credit, as Anish pointed out, their goalie, Logan McNaney, and, Ajax Zapatello selling out as much as he could to keep Duke at arm's length. And not just Ajax Zapatello, because that was part of the coaching of John Tillman was we're not just going to line up Zapatello on O'Neal. It's not going to be that simple because we think they have other guys that can beat us. So we can have Ajax Zapatello take one of those guys completely out of the game. And then we'll double O'Neal when we need to double O'Neal. And in this way, we think we can take two guys out of the game instead of taking one, and that's going to be a win for us. And that was some masterful coaching. And it's not obviously just John Tillman. Obviously, give Jake Bernhardt a lot of credit too. But, man, it was impressive. So, a fun all-in-all weekend of lacrosse. The Maryland-Duke game was really good. I didn't get to watch any of the Denver-Syracuse game. I did get to watch by the time I was able to charge my phone yesterday. We got on a boat in New York, and I was able to charge my phone on the boat.
That's what boats are for.
Yeah, exactly right. And then I was able to watch just around the Hudson, around the we did the whole the tourist thing. We saw all the buildings, all the sites, and the Statue of Liberty, the whole deal. We did that. We were very touristy in New York yesterday with our friends from Quebec. Right? I don't like
you did M&M World, so that's
yeah. I don't like doing the touristy things, but we had the kids, so we had to do the touristy things. And then it was finding out how much things cost. If you want to go up to the top of the Empire State Building, it's going to cost you $80 a person.
Oh my God.
Yeah, good. We can see the Empire State Building, and then
just imagine.
We'll go on. Oh man, the real difficulty is when we walked to the Empire State Building, we walked past the Harry Potter exhibition. That was a problem.
They're Harry Potter guys?
They're all in. Their mom's got them watching Harry Potter. They're all in, and then the other family's kids are all in on Harry Potter. And I promised them they could get one thing all day. When the first thing. And by the way, I really regret this in hindsight because when we were at the MLB store, my older son, wanted to get a Adley Rutschman jersey, and we're like, well, you could get that at home. We don't need to get that in New York. Why don't you get something more related to New York? And then, damn it, all day long.
He said that Adley jersey.
I just sort of forgot about it until the end of the day. We ended up at the stupid Harry Potter store, and then they're like, we want these wands. I'm like, damn it. We can still go back to the baseball store.
Well, this is on you, telling them to,
My fault.
Think about it.
Bought $65 wands. They're wands.
Yeah, but they're like magic.
Yeah, they're exactly right.
So.
Stupid.
They'll be able to,
stupid.
I don't know.
Not happy about
cast
that
spells
decision.
and stuff.
Yeah, that's exactly what they can do, Griffin. They can cast spells. Nailed it. All right. When we come back in, we are going to get into 3 Up and 3 Down for the week that was of Orioles baseball. We will do that next. Continue to get me yours at Glenn Clark Radio on Twitter. It is a Monday edition of GCR.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Discover one of Baltimore's hidden gems at Guilford Hall Brewery. Enjoy dinner in our spacious brew pub, sip a signature cocktail in our outdoor, dog-friendly beer garden, or take a tour of our brewery. Discover your new favorite local craft beer. From crisp lagers to hoppy ales, there's something for everyone to enjoy. Pair your brew with delicious appetizers and entrees. There are options for the whole family, but you have to try our fan-favorite giant pretzel. Guilford Hall Brewery, where every sip is a celebration. Visit us online at guilfordhall.com.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
The drug scene in Maryland is changing. Fentanyl and xylazine are being added to street drugs, and you may not even know it. Xylazine is not even intended for humans, and fentanyl is an opioid 50 times stronger than heroin, and contributed to over 80% of overdose deaths in our state. Anyone who uses drugs, even occasionally, is at risk of overdose. To learn more, visit stopoverdose.maryland.gov or call or text 988.
The votes were all counted, and the results are official. Royal Farms was named #1 for food in the USA Today 10 Best poll, receiving more votes than any other convenience store chain in America. The next time you want to get some good food fast, doesn't it make sense to go to Royal Farms? Voted best in the USA and home of world-famous chicken. Real fresh, real fast, Royal Farms.
What company has the expertise to make your home healthier by purifying your air and killing all viruses, allergens, and bacteria? A.J. Michaels, Heating and Air Conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis, ajmichaels.com.
Hungry? With 7 locations throughout Maryland, Glory Days Grill is always right around the corner. They have wings, burgers, salads, sandwiches, and drinks to satisfy everyone, as well as tons of televisions and sound delivered right to your phone. Glory Days is the best place to watch football or whatever your favorite sport is. While you're there, be sure to check out Goose Flight's Lager, named in honor of legendary Raven Tony Goose Siragusa. $2 of every can is donated to the Goose Flights Foundation. Glory Days Grill. Great food, good sports.
One of the things that's definitely wrong with this country is that this dude still has a job somehow, some way. Glenn Clark.
All right, coming up today, we are going to, we got a few things we're going to do. We're going to chat with No, we're not going to chat with Jeremy Kahn. Nailed it. Rob Long is going to join us instead at 11:30. Look forward to catching up with our buddy Rob from the Big Bad Morning Show and also from MASN. And then later on, we'll preview the Cardinals with Mark Sweeney. Later on today, Stay on the Fan Charles, Ross Grimsley, Luke Jackson are going to get together 5 o'clock today at facebook.com/PressBoxSports. If you miss it live, you'll be able to see it later. youtube.com/PressBoxOnline or PressBoxOnline.com/video. Their weekly baseball show talking about the week that has been for the Orioles and looking ahead. Again, 5 o'clock today. Facebook.com/PressBoxSports is where you'll be able to check that out. But if it's Monday, that means we need to do this.
3 up.
3 down.
Yeah, it's still we gotta fix
I think
it.
It might not be long enough.
It's not. It's a couple of things in there. It's also the segment's called 3 up and 3 down, not 3 up, 3 down. That's part of the problem.
That's the problem.
No, it's part of it.
That we forget the
It's part of it. No, we should say the name of the segment.
preposition.
It's 3 up and 3 down. Like that's the name of the segment.
When you're playing baseball and if you
Okay, enough.
3 up.
Yeah, thank you. Enough.
down.
It's not the name of the segment's 3 up and 3 down. That's the name of the segment.
Have I been titling it 3 up, 3 down?
I don't know what you've been
3 up
doing.
and 3
I
down?
haven't checked. The name of the segment is 3 up and 3 down. Yes, that's the name of the segment. So let's try to
All right, well,
let's
I'll
try
just,
to
I'll just add a little. I'll just add
and-
in there.
and it's we can do that better.
Grant, what do you think?
We can no.
What do you mean no?
No. It's irrelevant. We can do that better.
I think Grant's opinion.
No, we can do that better. Let's do it better. All right? Got it? Let's do it better. 3 up and 3 down this week is brought to you by the print issue of Press Box, which is available for free at your neighborhood Royal Farms, any of the hundreds of locations around town where you find Press Box. You can read it all at PressBoxOnline.com. You see it there. Grayson Rodriguez on the cover. Again, go pick it up for free at your neighborhood Royal Farms today. So, 3 up and 3 down, 3 Orioles who are deserving of praise, 3 are deserving of criticism from the week that was. And, man, I struggled with my third. The first 2 to me were obvious this week. The third one was the one that was difficult on the up list. I went back and forth. I ended up going with Colton Cowser, and that might be a recency bias thing, and I might, I really did struggle because the truth is Grayson Rodriguez was phenomenal on Saturday, was phenomenal. And in his first start back, it was surprising how good he was. It was incredible how good he was. But the value of this maybe being a moment where Colton Cowser turns the corner is the part that I couldn't escape from. I hope this proves to be the case. Hell, I hope Cedric Mullins was able to get things going over the weekend. But between the 3 walks on Saturday and then a 3-for-4 day yesterday, and then, of course, you add into that starting the relay and the diving catch, which were both outstanding. The totality thing for Colton Cowser and the value of him perhaps getting things going again was too much for me to leave off the list, and it meant I didn't have a pitcher on the list, which I'll probably regret. But Colton Cowser ends up being number 3 for me on 3 up this week.
Yeah, and I think it's because of recency bias that this guy's going to be lower on my list, and so I have Adley Rutschman as my number 3.
Yeah, it's too low.
It's
too low.
I mean, I thought
there are people that got in this week. They didn't have Rutschman on their list. I'll tell you that Rutschman's my number 2. The truth is, I wavered on he probably should have been number 1. The truth is he probably actually had a better overall week than Gunnar did, but recency bias ends up being a thing there. Adley Rutschman kind of was their offense, obviously, for the first couple of games of the week.
I mean, yeah, maybe you're right. I mean, for Wednesday, it was just unbelievable.
He absolutely should be at worst number 2 on the list, which is where he is on mine.
Corbin Burns was my number 2. Made 2 starts of the week.
Yeah,
and he was Corbin Burns.
He was Corbin Burns. Although oddly, he put more guys on base than I realized he did. That was the weird.
Yesterday, he was just so impressive. After maybe there were concerns. After he got pulled after 80 pitches or 80 or so pitches.
Yeah.
So that was Monday. So if there were any concerns, he comes back and strikes out 11, strikes out 9 of the first 12 outs of the game. So I mean, he was Corbin Burns.
Corbin Burns was really good and certainly somebody I considered, but it is weird that in the process he did put 16 guys on base over the 12 innings. Not to say that that's an abomination or that you can't win with that or it means that he was bad or anything like that, but it was weird how many guys. Now, he worked his way out of it, and you can tell a complete story here while recognizing all of the above.
But it's not like the walks are still he walked 2 guys. Grant pulled it up for me. He walked 2 guys on Monday. Yeah, and then walked 1 yesterday.
Yeah, it wasn't the walks weren't overwhelming. It was hits. That was he gave up 13 hits over 12 innings. That's the weird part is that he was hit. He just sort of managed to find a way to work around all of it.
And I think that's just what he does. He will let up some hits, and he does not give up a big inning. There's no big innings with
Corbin. Just 2 runs over those
starts.
That's
100%. That part is the part that matters the most. I agree with that. But again, separating good from good, I couldn't ignore the fact that he He put 16 guys on base. That was weird. It was a weird number.
They played 5 games, and he made 2 starts, and both were very, very strong starts. So Corbin Burns is my number 2.
Look, Gunnar Henderson's number 1, but as I said, it absolutely could have been Adley Rutschman, and maybe it even should have been Adley Rutschman. Like, I'll struggle with that one for some time. But, you know, the 3 home runs over the weekend, the setting the tone with the leadoff home runs. What are you going to say? Gunnar Henderson is in the MVP conversation, although I still don't even think he's the team MVP. I'll keep coming back to that. I think Adley Rutschman is the team MVP.
Hitting, if he's going to hit a home run every day,
I understand that the home run totals are looking absurd. And then they mixed in a triple, obviously, the back-to-back triples the other night, and you know, he stole a base and he had 3. Well, it was a good week.
He plays unbelievable shortstop.
Yep, it was a really good week for Gunnar Henderson. So Gunnar Henderson, he's number 1. I'm not mad that I put him at number 1, but like when I did this actually last night.
Kimbrel was really impressive, so you know, able to reclaim that closer role. Thought, you know.
Yeah, we'll get to that because the other guy ends up on the other list, unfortunately. It's weird because only one bullpen guy ended up on my down list, and like you could argue the bullpen was the sort of weak spot for the week, but unfortunately 2 guys that stand out significantly offensively, and I'll begin with Anthony Santander's number 3 for me, went 2 for 15. And every time you start thinking about, like, the subtext, you keep saying to yourself, well, but you can't get rid of you can't lose Santander's spot in the lineup because you just need guys that put the fear of God into opposing pitchers. Well, I don't know at this point how much he's doing that. It's been rough. Like, there's kind of no way around it. And obviously it's the worst possible time for that for Santander in his free agent season. Like, this couldn't come at a worse time, but it comes at a more complicated time for the Orioles. Unfortunately, and I guess fortunate for Anthony Santander, very unfortunately for the Orioles, Kobe Mayo, who was just with us a few days ago, goes to the injured list. So you're not going to force a decision on that, although I don't know if you guys saw Heston Kjerstad hit a walk-off grand slam yesterday for Norfolk. Like, at some point you might want to revisit that, and I'm not suggesting that Anthony Santander's time to be removed from the lineup is today, but
so if they have to wait 15 days to recall Kjerstad, right? From when they opted.
Yes.
Yeah, unless there's
an injury. Correct.
Okay.
It's in the same way that Mullins has been in the conversation. Santander's in the conversation. Like, you have guys that you want to see play, and while you can't count on it, again, Colton Cowser was in the crosshairs going into this weekend. He had a big weekend, and that probably, you know, keeps him in everyday-ish playing time. But I don't know why Austin Hayes, who's looked pretty good since he returned, wouldn't still be in that conversation too. It's complicated in the outfield, and Anthony Santander's not helping. I guess the one area is he's still been the guy that's been getting on base despite the fact that he hasn't been hitting. He's the one guy that's still, like, working counts and taking walks. I got to pull up. Somebody sent out a stat about first pitch swings this year and why it's been a good idea for teams to swing on the first pitch. And, like, I got to look into those numbers a little bit more and see how I measure that against having pitchers work counts and elevating pitch counts and, you know, the value of that. I got to dive into that a little bit more. And Anthony Santander, for his shortcomings this season, has still been one of the few guys that is seeing a lot of pitches in this lineup. And so what's the value of that versus his lack of productivity? And it's not like he hasn't hit 7 home runs. Like, he's on pace to still have about a 25 home run. I got to do the math. Maybe 20, maybe it's not quite 25. Somewhere in that neighborhood, home run season.
Probably about, so what, half of what Gunner's on pace for? So, yeah, probably.
Yeah, Gunner's on pace.
Not far off.
Yeah, how many games are we at this point? Because the Orioles have played so many fewer than everybody. 44, right? Yeah. 44. So, yeah, it's weird. They played 4 fewer.
They're about to play 40 games in like 39
It's like
days.
43 and 45 days or something like that. So he's on pace for somewhere between 22 and 25 home runs. Something like that is what Anthony Santander is on pace for. And that's still helpful, but even as someone who takes walks, he's still only getting on base at a 290 clip. Like, that's the troubling part is he's getting on base. and yet he's still only he's having such a disappointing offensive season that he's only
on base at 300.
Correct. That's the tough part with Santander, but he's number 3.
He's still. I mean, I still, I guess, just give him too much value. Just that his at bats are still competitive.
There's a way to say that and still recognize that he should have been on the list.
I mean, maybe, but
it was 2 for 15 this week.
Relievers on my list.
That part.
And Santander still plays solid defense in right field. I guess he didn't. Was that Monday night that he didn't look good?
Oh yeah, that was a rough. Yeah, it was a bad week for Santander.
It wasn't a
great
week.
There's no defending Santander.
I put and this might have to go back into the recency bias, so I may have to recalibrate my list.
It's definitely a recency. If it's Webb, it's definitely a recency.
Cano,
well, Cano was higher on my list.
Ynier Cano was number 3 on my list.
Yeah.
Webb was higher on my list.
Yeah, that's a recency bias thing for sure. That's
did not have a
definitely.
good week.
He didn't have a good week, but a lot of that was what you saw yesterday.
And
I get it.
Earlier in the week.
I get it. He didn't. I'm not saying he had a good week.
Ynier Cano lost the game on
Cano's
Saturday.
Cano's number 2 on the list. I mean, the Cano thing is very frustrating because I was ready to see him be the team's closer. Now, scratch that off the list. He's not going to do that. It's going to default to Kimbrel right now, but the real answer is you need to be looking for your closer. Like you're going to have to acquire that guy in July. And I don't know. Part of this is that they weren't really committed to Ynier Cano. Maybe if they were committed to Cano and told him, look, you're pitching the 9th inning, prepare to pitch the 9th inning, get your mind right. I don't know what it would have looked like.
Manager now, huh? Yeah.
No, I don't know. I don't know that it would have worked, but there's no defending it now because he didn't do his job. Cano's number 2. That's the frustrating part.
Mountcastle was my number 2.
Mountcastle was number 1 with a bullet. The idea that Jacob Webb was worse than Ryan Mountcastle stunk.
Ryan Mountcastle was not good.
He stunk.
He was not good, and he was number 2 on my list.
He was dreadful this week.
It was not a good Mountcastle week.
Dreadful. Ryan Mountcastle went 1 for 16 this week. 1 for 16. And yes, he still, plays defense, but it's at first base. So, there is a limit to saying, hey, but he's still helpful defensively. Yeah, he is, and I'm not trying to.
He's got to continue to, make, otherworldly first baseman plays for, I think to continue to want to stay in the lineup every day. If he's going to.
Well, I'm not. Ryan Mountcastle's had a good season. This is not. There's no Santander conversation with Mountcastle. He's had a good season. He's had an awful week. I mean, an awful week. But I'm not kicking him out of the lineup because he's mostly been productive this season. It has been a wretched stretch for Ryan Mountcastle, and that happens. And you don't panic about it. You don't you assume that everybody gets their turn to have really wretched weeks, and this was his turn to have a really wretched week. There were only 3 strikeouts. I guess you could say that.
Just 1 total base, though.
Jacob Webb,
1. Yeah, didn't have a walk in there. Nothing.
Jacob Webb couldn't find the strike zone in his 2 appearances.
I hear you.
Jacob Webb was my number 1.
I hear you. He
stuck out the most to me.
I can't.
When you're putting him in now in high leverage spots, it
was a bad week. Nobody's arguing that it was a bad week. It was a very bad week for Jacob Webb. There's no doubt about that. All right, those are 3 up and 3 down. Give me yours, @GlennClarkRadio on Twitter. A few that have come in from Randy Morgan. His up list, 1 Gunner, 2 Adley, 3 Corbin Burns. So I think that was almost exactly the same as Griffin's. His down list, 1 Mullins, 2 Cano, 3 Mountcastle. Maybe it's the other way around. Maybe he was 3 Mullins, 2 Cano, 1 Mountcastle. I don't know if he's back, but that's how low the bar is for Cedric Mullins. Is that Cedric Mullins
he got a couple hits.
And he had the bunt the other night too, so he had 3 hits over the span of 2 days, and we're like, hey, maybe things are turning around. That's how low the bar is.
Yesterday too, didn't he?
Yeah, and again, in comparison to some of the other guys this week, I couldn't even consider Cedric Mullins because he had just enough productivity over the weekend. In one day yesterday, he had as much offensive productivity as Anthony Santander had for the week.
And Mountcastle combined,
yeah. For the weekend, he had 3 hits, and the 2 of them combined for 3 hits over the week. I couldn't. Trust me, we've beaten up Mullins plenty this week or this season, but not. He was helpful this weekend. Other guys weren't. From Travis. Up 1 Gunner, 2 Burns, 3 Grayson. Yeah, I can't believe somebody would leave Adley Rutschman. Did you just start watching the team Friday? I get it. Recency bias is a difficulty for this. He had 1 Webb, 2 Santander, 3 Cano for his list. Mark, 1 Adley, 2 Gunner, 3 Burns, and down 1 Santander, 2 Webb, 3 Brandon Hyde. There it is.
Why? What did he do?
There it is. He said said pulling starters early while the pen is struggling.
They're going 6 innings, aren't they?
I don't know, dude. I don't know, man.
Not every starter goes 6 innings this week.
Just about.
No, somebody did.
Somebody went 5 2/3.
Who went? Somebody
might have been Bradish.
Click the ESPN tab.
Yeah. That's. I think that's right.
Scroll up the pitchers.
Yeah, I don't. Somebody did not go.
I think you are right.
Somebody did not go the whole stretch.
Bradish.
And then from Don says up 1 Gunner, 2 Suarez. Okay.
What is Suarez?
I mean, okay. I didn't think he was.
He got 2 outs. What day did he pitch?
Yeah, like he was fine, but I don't think he did enough to warrant being on the list. 3 Calzer.
Andrew Suarez?
Yes, who got released.
Just got released.
Yes. His down list 1 CNL Perez.
What did he do?
I don't even remember. 2 What a weird down list. Perez, Cedric, and Coulombe.
What did Coulombe
Like
do?
ignoring the guys who were.
Coulombe let up 2 runs, but didn't he look good in one of?
I feel like he did. Maybe I'm missing that. Yeah. And then from my guy, the MSR Maryland Sports Report, 1 up list, 1 Calzer, 2 Gunner, 3 Jorge Mateo.
Yeah, he just watched yesterday.
Clearly.
Based off of
that's weird.
Just yesterday.
And then down list, Mountcastle 1, Santander 2, Perez 3. Continue to get me yours at Glenn Clark Radio on Twitter. And I don't remember.
Perez was great, wasn't he?
I don't know that was he great? I don't know.
They're thinking of maybe. So he was bad against Arizona on.
No, that was last. That was
Sunday?
3 runs, 3 hits, walk.
Yeah,
the Saturday loss.
Yeah, that doesn't qualify for this week.
Right, exactly. He was great.
I think he's looking at.
CNL Perez. Yes, and he had 2 appearances. He went 2 2/3. He didn't allow a run. He allowed 1 hit, 2 walks. I mean, he wasn't.
He
like
didn't allow a run, and it's hard to.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not. There's no way that he's on the other list. What the hell? Who was that? Who put Perez?
I don't think
on
you
the
put him
list?
on either.
Yeah, right. Hey, yeah. I'll share the context. All right. Continue to get me yours at Glenn Clark Radio on Twitter. Really quickly, while we have a second here, just a couple of thoughts on the basketball. Of course, conference finals are set. No games tonight. They will get underway with the Eastern Conference Finals tomorrow night. It was a very weird feeling for me as I was sitting outside Madison Square Garden. We went to a Mexican place that literally was right.
What's going on?
Like it was at the Garden. I mean, it would be like being at Pickles during a baseball game. Like that's where we were as we. Of course, for everybody that knows in New York, the train station is
crying.
You know what's really funny, Griffin? So anyway, for people that don't know New York, the train station is right across the street from Madison Square Garden. Like it's right there. And so we decided that we would come back. We were going to get some food. Our train was at 8, but with 2 kids,
Gotta give yourself 2 hours.
You got to give yourself a little bit of time. So the decision that we made is that we would come back to the train station area and have dinner around 5:30, 5:45. And again, it's a group of 8 of us, so you got to buy some time in for that too, so that by 7 o'clock we could be walking into the train station. So that also we want to make sure we get seats together on the train. So like we want to make sure that we're in the early group of people that lines up for the train. So we had mapped this all out ahead of time, and then all of a sudden it hit me while we were on this boat yesterday. As they had the game up on the boat. I'm like, oh, right. We're going to be right in all of that. So then I didn't even know. This is the crazy part about New York is that
maybe the stadium left early. Like everyone left early. Right?
Well, no, but like the crazy part about New York is that an event like this in any other city, like that's what's going on, right? Like that's the only thing that's happening. In New York, everybody else in that area just continues on about their day. Like they're interested. They want to know what the score is, but they just continue on about their day. There's just too many people for any gathering of 20,000 of them to really stand out. They're like, right, we get 20,000 people together for lots of things. There's just 20,000 people milling around at the Empire State Building today. Like, that's the way that it goes. So I said to everybody I was with, I was like, this, because we were sitting outside at this Mexican restaurant that, again, is right on top of we're right there. We're staring at the garden the entire time. And I'm like, there could be an awkward moment here where, 20,000 angry people could be just coming into and I had the game up on my phone as I'm sort of the older son from their family was also very interested in the game, was feigning to be a Knicks fan recently, so he was interested in it.
I saw them. They were representing a lot of different teams, it looked like.
Yeah, well, I was trying to figure that out too, because the older son had a Marlins hat on, or the younger son had a Marlins hat on, and I was like, because I remember him telling us last summer that he was a Dodgers fan because he played for a Little League team that was called the Dodgers. But then they were also going to root for the Yankees because they were in town to go to they're going to the Yankees game tonight against the Mariners, and so they decided basically just because that's who the home team is, that they bought some Yankees gear this is his first ever Major League Baseball game because there's no team in Montreal.
Yet.
And maybe there will be.
Or
Who
again,
knows?
whatever.
Yeah. Although we found some Expos gear in the Major League Baseball store, and I don't remember if they bought it because they were buying some stuff. I don't remember if they bought the Expos hat or not. But the older son's a Blue Jays fan just because it's Canada's team. We were having a whole conversation about it. So at one point we start to see the crowds. Now most of the crowds that leave the Garden go directly to the subway, right? That's the other part that you got to remember is it's not the subway's right underneath the Garden. So a lot of people never actually leave the building. They arrive, they go upstairs, they go to the game, they go back to the subway. But the crowd that starts making their way, it was kind of wild to me that they weren't angry.
Well,
they were bummed, they were disappointed, but they weren't angry. I guess because it was such a blowout that they had made peace with it.
The news that Jalen Brunson didn't play the second half.
But that that wasn't a lot of people want to make that the story. That wasn't the story, and I guess the story would have been, for some of them, winning wouldn't even matter because if Jalen Brunson was going to be out for, you weren't winning anything without Jalen Brunson. And it was a fairly serious injury, right? He fractured
his hand.
Yeah, so he wasn't going to be playing in the Celtics series, so what the hell? Even if you win Game 7, it's just to go get swept or losing 5 to the Celtics. So it wasn't anger necessarily as much as it was just, bitter, disappointment. Which is kind of surprising me because I know how much these people paid for tickets. And, if I pay that much for a ticket, I'm probably going to be angry. That's probably the way that it's going to go. I was told that ESPN was an embarrassment yesterday because they were just doing, wall-to-wall Knicks stuff. And but ESPN's basketball coverage is embarrassing. There's no way around that. They're terrible. There are things that ESPN does really well. Golf people were really happy with ESPN's coverage of the PGA Championship last week. Certainly how they handled the Scotty Scheffler thing on Friday morning. I think that ESPN largely does the tennis tournament. I'm a tennis fan. Everybody knows that. I think they largely do the tennis tournaments well. Their lacrosse coverage, I think, is very good. They have authoritative people. And part of that is, with some of these sports, they don't just default to their stupid.
Stephen A. is not talking about lacrosse.
I hate, because I don't even hate Stephen A. Smith, right? I think he's embarrassing, but they're all embarrassing. All of them are. But they've decided to force that. Basically, the way that ESPN has treated basketball is they use basketball to try to promote them instead of the other way around. I've always wondered if, internally, people there are embarrassed by how TNT's basketball coverage is a 15.5 out of 10. Their basketball coverage is a 1.5 out. And I always wonder if they're embarrassed by it, or if as a company, they made the decision that the point of us having basketball is to promote our crappy television shows. So basketball fans don't like it, but it accomplishes the purpose that we've decided is the most important purpose here. And again, that's embarrassing, but maybe that just is how they feel. We don't care about covering basketball. You're going to watch the games wherever they are. Why would we care about making the content better? If we've got this audience that's going to come watch the games, then we want to serve promoting our internal awful content. That might be the way they think about it. To the point, these other sports they cover well, you're not going to throw Mike Greenberg out there to do the golf tournament. You're not going to have any of the Jay Williams isn't, or who I don't even know who they have anymore on those shows. Who even works on?
I think does stuff.
Is he still on one of those shows? They're not going to send.
Isn't Rivers doing stuff now? No. I don't know. Maybe it's with a different.
I don't know. They're not going to send Pat McAfee over to do the tennis tournament. They're not going to They're not going to do that.
Might. Who knows?
Yeah. By the way, if there was a relevant enough, Caitlin Clark type of figure, they might send. But the point is, those things that can just stand. By the way, they did an amazing job covering the NCAA women's tournament. Their coverage of the women's tournament was top notch. How good it was. There are some things they do really, really well, but it's largely the stuff that they can't infiltrate with their crap programming. Basketball just is their crap programming. And that's sad. It's sad, but they just might have decided that's the value to them. We paid X amount of dollars to have it, so we're going to have to try to convince people to watch the stupid Stephen A. Smith show because of it. The game itself obviously was a dud. I am... it's really funny. I have been utterly dismissive of the Celtics. Their path to the finals appears to be so easy that maybe they're going to have to be more of a factor to win the title than I have given them credit for, just because they haven't been pushed. And while I think the Pacers, it's a cool story, and I think that they've done a remarkable job of getting there, it is hard-pressed for me to see the it's difficult for me to see the Pacers being able to do this against the Celtics. It's very tough for me to see that.
Max.
Yeah, that's sort of the way that I feel. And the Celtics, if that's the case, will have largely coasted into the NBA Finals without being stressed whatsoever. The thing last night, I talk about how crazy the Maryland game against Duke was. Holy F. I mean, you're up 20 at home in the second half, and you're the defending champions of the NBA. 15 times out of 10, you're winning that game. That was insane. I kept shaking my head and making actual noises. We were on this train, and my kids were sleeping, and my wife kept being woken up by me making an audible noise. Like the Nas Reed dunk. I'm like, what? And it's not just Anthony Edwards. And I think that's the important part. I think a lot of the attention has been based around Anthony Edwards and the defense. But what the Timberwolves did there, after losing 3 straight games and looking dead in the water, and then particularly in the second half last night, was a story of how complete their roster is. And it helps to have an Anthony Edwards at the top. And it helps to have, block specialists like Rudy Gobert. But it's all of it. Karl Anthony Towns was great. Nas Reed has been a revelation. McDaniels has obviously been really good. They have been. Conley's been outstanding. They are a complete team. And we've so rarely seen complete basketball teams. The story of the teams that have won titles, for the most part, have been a couple of guys. It was Jokic and Murray. You can say, Porter was helpful, but, kinda. Every time you watched Michael Porter, you find yourself saying, why aren't you better? What is it that... You've got everything.
Built like Kevin Durant.
Right. Why aren't you better? And not to say he wasn't helpful. He was helpful, but I don't think they were complete. This Timberwolves team is as complete of a roster as I think we have seen from a team making a deep run. It's still not going to be easy for them to beat Dallas. That's going to be another barn burner of a series. But that is a complete-ass team that just went through a war. And to me, they're the best team that's left. It doesn't guarantee anything. And, again, the Celtics might just coast so much so that it benefits them if they get to the finals against whoever it is. But
or they'll just be completely caught off guard like it seemed like Denver was by assuming,
exactly what they're getting from Minnesota. Maybe. Man, they are. And they're fun to watch. When you don't have a rooting interest anymore, for the most of us in this country, the people in this city, you don't have a team to root for. it's kind of easy to embrace the Timberwolves. They're fun. They're good. They play complete team basketball.
They're funny in the press conference afterwards.
They're a fun team, man. And then you add into all that, like, Minnesota hasn't won a championship since 1991 in any sport. It's been since, and the Twins won in 87 and 91. But, like, all those Vikings teams that had all of that talent, nothing. Yeah, that's not what I was going to lead with. Not that. I mean, that team actually was good, though. But, like, they have Adrian Peterson, Randy Moss, Chris Carter, Stephon Diggs, John Randall, Randall McDaniel. Like, they have all of these great players and nothing to show. Dante Culpepper was an MVP caliber quarterback for a little while. Yeah, he's on the lower end of that list, but sure. Nothing. Not even a Super Bowl appearance to show for it. Kevin Garnett, nothing to show for it. Not even an NBA Finals appearance. It's kind of easy for me to embrace the Timberwolves and to say, yeah, I think I'm rooting for them at this point. Just because, like, my God, we're certainly not going to root for Boston. That's not going to happen. For some of us in this city, you're never going to root for a team from Indianapolis. Like, again, I think the Pacers are likable, but, like, I'm not going to feel good for Indianapolis people. And my God, the Mavericks won just a few years ago. It's Dallas. Those are still Cowboys fans that we're talking about. Although I saw plenty of Cowboys fans walking around New York yesterday, too.
What are they doing there?
They're everywhere. They're cockroaches. But, the Yankees, Cowboys, Lakers, like, that's who they are. Notre Dame, somehow, Notre Dame and Alabama and Clemson. It's weird how they root for all three. I don't know what to make of it. Yeah, the Timberwolves I'm openly rooting for them now. Plus, Tim Connolly, of course, Baltimore's own, is their GM and put that roster together after he put together the championship Nuggets roster. Like, it's a crazy story of what Tim Connolly has done.
And plus, I have my Timberwolves over the Celtics finals bet.
Oh, look at you! Yeah, you got that going for you. I'm rooting for the Timberwolves. They're a lot of fun. But yeah, that'll get underway tomorrow night. Celtics Pacers game 1 on Tuesday, and then Timberwolves Mavericks game 1 on Wednesday to start the conference finals. When we come back in, we're going to catch up with our buddy Rob Long. He will join us next from MASN and 105.7 The Fan right here on GCR.
What company makes your home more energy efficient, purifies your air, kills all viruses, and qualifies you for $6,000 in rebates? A.J. Michaels Heating and Air Conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis at ajmichaels.com.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
The ultimate fan experience awaits you at Sports and Social Maryland. See how we're raising the sports bar with our massive 100-foot media wall featuring 40 HD TVs and a 47-foot big screen. Bet on your favorite teams and this year's biggest events at the FanDuel Sportsbook while enjoying your favorite beers and cocktails, plus our delicious takes on bar food classics. Visit Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland, at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Discover one of Baltimore's hidden gems at Guilford Hall Brewery. Enjoy dinner in our spacious brew pub, sip a signature cocktail in our outdoor dog-friendly beer garden, or take a tour of our brewery. Discover your new favorite local craft beer. From crisp lagers to hoppy ales, there's something for everyone to enjoy. Pair your brew with delicious appetizers and entrees. There are options for the whole family, but you have to try our fan-favorite giant pretzel. Guilford Hall Brewery, where every sip is a celebration. Visit us online at guilfordhall.com.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Luke Jackson profiles Grayson Rodriguez, talking to people who have been part of his path as the Orioles hope he'll become their next homegrown ace. Also inside, we remember legendary Maryland basketball coach Lefty Drizel with stories from legends like Roy Williams and Bobby Cremins about what it was like to go up against the old left-hander. Press Box is available at over 500 locations around Baltimore, including 60 Royal Farm stores. You can also find the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
The drug scene in Maryland is changing. Fentanyl and xylazine are being added to street drugs, and you may not even know it. Xylazine is not even intended for humans, and fentanyl is an opioid 50 times stronger than heroin and contributed to over 80% of overdose deaths in our state. Anyone who uses drugs, even occasionally, is at risk of overdose. To learn more, visit stopoverdose.maryland.gov or call or text 988.
The Ed Block Courage Award Foundation has been working in partnership with the NFL for 46 years to support abused, neglected, and at-risk youth across the country, partnering each team with a children's facility or program that supports the well-being of those in need. Annually, one player from each team is selected by their peers to receive the Courage Award for their inspiration on and off the field. Learn more about how the Ed Block Courage Award Foundation makes a difference, and be sure to check out their latest podcast and web series episodes at edblock.org.
Contrary to what some people believe, I actually like this guy when he sleeps. Glenn Clark, talking sports.
Don't forget all the updates you need during championship season in high school sports, as lacrosse winding down, then baseball and softball coming up. You can find them at countysports.zone. County Sports Zone is proudly sponsored by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. Let's catch up with our friend. I was listening to him on the way in this morning as, it's funny. I was talking about people that just hate coaches. He got somebody going on John Harbaugh. On May 20th, there was somebody going in on John Harbaugh this morning because, boy, we need to see the lady. Like, that's just the way we are as a people. From the Big Bad Morning Show on 105.7 The Fan and, of course, MASN, he is our friend Rob Long, and he's back with us here on GCR. Rob, what's up, brother? How are you?
Not much, Glenn. How are you, man?
Dude, people need to see the lady, man.
They go off. In one call, he went off on John Harbaugh and Brandon Hyde in one call. I don't like either one of them.
Dude, you see it. I know you see it. Like, the Brandon Hyde stuff is nuts to me. Like, all the guy has done has overseen a complete transformation of this organization. And I get the players are the biggest reason for it. Like, that's the way it is in all of sports, right? Like, even you as a coach, you can't win if you don't have good players. Like, that's the way that it works.
Yeah, exactly. But Glenn, you just said it best. You said the players are the reason for it, right?
Yeah.
So my question to you is, why don't we blame the players equally when we lose?
Rob, you and we could do a 10-hour show about this.
And I always say, when I'm recruiting people, I always say, players win games, coaches lose them. And it's tongue-in-cheek.
Right.
Because what I'm saying to you at the end of the day, that's how you're going to see it.
Yep, that's the way we treat it. 100%, that's the way we treat it. Rob, to me, the crazy part is, like, I'm not going to agree with every decision that's made, but the decisions overwhelmingly seem to work. So if every now and then I disagree with one, does that mean that there's something wrong with the manager, or that, hey, sometimes you make a decision that just doesn't work? Like, but not every decision Joe Torre ever made worked, right? Like, this happened.
100%. I'm with you. I think we have a phenomenal manager, a phenomenal head coach in the city. There's a lot of people out there who would love to have both of them. And if either one of them got fired, they won't stay fired for long.
It's nuts, man. And, the other thing, too, I don't know what you make of this, but, like, the culture part of it for the Orioles in particular, I get it. The culture probably isn't going to be what wins you a World Series, but it matters. And I think we've all seen it. And you obviously being there every day, you see it as much as anybody does. But, like, that culture doesn't happen in spite of the manager, man. Like, I don't believe that for a second.
No, see, the culture starts up at the top, but you got to have the manager, because up top doesn't have day-to-day contact with the players.
Yeah.
So that's the thing that's changed. It's changed from the very top of the leadership board.
Yep.
However, the manager is the one that has to make sure that culture and that brand is carried on with the players. And I think Brandon Hyde does a phenomenal job in making sure the players are in line with that culture. When you go in there, it's a very loose clubhouse, but it's a different kind of loose. It's not a I don't care loose. It's we're going to win.
Yep.
We've taken care of all the things that we had to take care of. Now we're loose because we've handled our business. It's unlike any club. I've been covering the Orioles for about 20 years now. And before you had the Adam Jones clubhouse where he was loose, a couple of guys were loose, then everybody else was kind of militant and tight.
Mm-hmm.
This clubhouse, it's that way throughout, man. It's positive peer pressure. When you come in there, it's almost like even the media. The media gets in line to play a part in the culture as well, because we know how it is.
Yep.
The PR staff, outstanding. Honestly, man, they've turned into an organization that just gets it.
Let me run a couple by you, right? Let me start with I am concerned, again, in context, is they're winning games and they're scoring runs, and that's what matters. But a 306 on-base percentage, I ran the numbers last week. There's been one team since the turn of the century that an on-base percentage lower than 319 that's won a World Series. I am still concerned, to whatever extent it is, about them being a little too reliant on the long ball. I think they can fix it. I think they have the pieces to fix it. I just think they need to.
I agree with you, but here's the issue, though. That 306 on-base percentage is, to me, not going to continue to be that way.
Right.
I think Austin Hayes is either going to get right or replaced.
Yep.
Cedric Mullins is going to get either right or replaced. And I have all the confidence in the world that those guys are going to get right. But that on-base percentage is being dragged down by guys putting up career worst numbers, the worst numbers in their entire career. So I believe if you believe the back of the baseball card, you believe that those guys will get back in line and be the guys they're supposed to be. If the back of the baseball card is deceiving us and fooling us this year, that means those guys won't be around in August and September in the lineup with an opportunity to bring down the on-base percentage. I think that's what we're looking at right now. As far as the home run's concerned, Glenn, this is not the mid-2000s Orioles that rely too much on the home run, because you didn't have a Gunnar Henderson who's going to hit 30 to 40 home runs and, oh, by the way, steal 20 bases.
Right.
You didn't have Jordan Westbrook who's going to steal 20 bases. You didn't have Mateo who's going to steal 30 bases. You didn't have, if he gets right, Cedric Mullins who's going to steal 20 bases. That's the difference in this team. They hit a couple of home runs yesterday, but they also manufactured a couple of runs as well.
Yep.
So that's the great thing about this baseball team is they don't just rely on a home run. They just have a ton of home run hitters. They don't have a 40 home run guy per se, although I think Gunnar can be that. They just got a lot of guys who are going to hit somewhere between 15 and 30 home runs, which makes them a home run hitting team. But don't get it twisted. This team will go second to third and score from first on the ball hitting the gap. It gets to the wall with the best of them.
So one more, the Kimbrel thing, right? Like, obviously at this point you're defaulting back to him being the closer.
Yeah, that worries me.
Yeah, okay. I'm glad that's where, because you know where I'm going. Like, to me, it's you're defaulting back to it, but you're doing that knowing you're going to have to address it in July. This can't be your answer come October, right?
This is one of those things where when he's good, he's your best option. When he's not, he tells you that he's not good quickly. That's the great thing about Kimbrel.
Yeah,
Kimbrel's not going to go out with a 2-run lead, get 2 outs, and all of a sudden the rocks come crumbling down. No. He's going to let you know from batter one, I don't have it tonight. And I think that's why Brandon Hahn has been able to yank him and save some games early, knowing, man, you don't have it tonight. Let's wait. Yesterday you saw early he had it. That's the good. You hate having a closer who sometimes doesn't have it, but if there's a silver lining in this, he tells you he doesn't have it quickly. I agree too. They're not going to. I think Craig Kimbrel can get as hot as he wants to. They're going to make a move of one way or the other to address the back end of the bullpen. That way, if you keep him around just in case the wheels fall off again. And when that happens, you can bounce to somebody else. I think that's how it. I think he can get hot, but I don't think they're going to go the rest of the year not addressing that 8th, 9th inning.
Yeah, to me, you got to have your workhorse, right? Like, you just got to be able to have a guy that you can try. I get it. We're so skewed by what Felix Bautista did last season. It was historic, but you're not going to get that. But I still think that you want to be able to turn to somebody to say, hey, if I got to count on you to pitch 3 times in 4 days, then I can count on that, and I know what I'm getting 3 times in 4 days. Like, I just feel like to win a World Series, you got to have that type of guy at the back end.
Glenn, listen, you don't have to expect to have a Felix Bautista.
Right.
But a lot of teams don't have Felix. You cannot have Felix Bautista and still win. The lefty that the Nats had when they won the World Series. I forget his name. He's the pitching coach now.
Oh, God. Was it Doolittle? Was that who it was?
Doolittle.
Yeah.
Doolittle that year, he wasn't lights out.
Yeah.
He wasn't lights out. He would sometimes come in with gasoline. He just didn't have a match. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think his ERA was like over 3 that year, Glenn.
God.
So he wasn't lights out, but at the same time, he wasn't quite blowing saves. He would come in with a 3-run lead and they would win by 2 or 1. You know what I mean? He would come in with a 2-run lead, and they would win by 1. So he wasn't exactly lights out, but he was competent enough where he picked up the save. No matter how much you tight-roped it, he picked up the save. You got to have that guy. And right now, Kimbrel, when he's at his worst, he's not even tight-roping it. He's just falling. He's just jumping off of it. You know, that's just bottom line. And you know what I hate about it? When they signed him, I loved it. I like Kimbrel. And I know Philadelphia Phillies fans warned me of what he was in the postseason. I thought, you know, man, if he gets me to the postseason and he does that, if he gets me, you know, to the ALCS and he does that, I'm going to be ticked off. But I got to the ALCS. And I looked at with the options out there, I thought he was the best option because I didn't want Josh Hader. I didn't want to waste spending the multiple years on a guy that you know you didn't need multiple years.
It looks, dude, I wanted him last summer. I badly wanted Josh Hader, right? Like, that was, to me, and that was before Batista got hurt. Like I said, you know how this goes. You get to the playoffs, you need more than one closer. You need more than one leverage arm in the postseason. You need to be able to go get – in the 5th inning of a game, you're going to need a closer. You're going to need somebody.
That's why I love you, Glenn.
Like,
that's why I love you,
dude.
People don't understand baseball has changed, man.
Yes.
People say you gotta have a starter in the postseason that can go 8.
Nope.
Where?
Nope.
When?
Don't work that way. Not at all.
It don't work that way.
Not
I don't trust you past 5. You know what I mean? No, but everything's on the line. This baseball has changed. I want my starter to go in a postseason. I want my starter to go 5, and I want 4 guys that throw 95 plus.
Yep. Give me load up.
That's what I want.
Load up. Give me all of those.
That's what I want. I want a starter that can get me a solid 5 and 4 relievers that can go 95 plus and just gas you to death.
Yep.
You know what I mean? That's what I want in the postseason, and that's what baseball has become.
And you can trust your starter as much as you want. When they get in trouble, you're not going to allow that to be the moment that dooms you. Just because, hey, we trust this guy. Right, I trust him too, but I'm going to get out of this situation and live to fight another day.
I trust him enough to rely on him for the next start.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
That's what I trust him enough for. It's not about trust. It's all or nothing. And I think people, this is what we have in baseball, more so I think than any other sport. It's funny because football fans tend to embrace change because the NFL is the league that changes every year.
Right.
They have a change every year. And people are more tolerant of football changes. But when it comes to baseball, man, they don't tolerate change. They want the game to be played the way. I heard somebody say today, I remember back when starters threw 8 all the time.
Like, bro.
First of all, that never happened. Starters did not throw 8 all the time. Not all of your starters threw 8 all the time.
I don't know. It seemed like Palmer did, but other than him.
That's why I said all of your starters did. You may have a starter or 2 who did it, but not all of them did. I remember Sammy Stewart pitching a lot of innings. I remember Tippy Martinez pitching multiple innings. I remember those things. But you just don't have that anymore. I think I read something today that less than 5% of the starts in baseball this year have gone 8 innings by the starter.
That's nuts.
Less than 5%.
Yeah. It's not. I say it's nuts, but now it's not really that surprising to me, honestly. Like, that's the game. You're right. That's the way it is. That's the way it is. So load up. Trust as many arms in the bullpen as you possibly can. Trust all of them. And if somebody look, and it's an awkward thing, right? I felt bad this weekend because Bauman had a great week. He had a great week leading up to it. But I get it. Like, you have to trust every arm. And am I going to trust Mike Bauman? I don't know. I don't know. He had a hell of a week. He had a great couple of appearances. But do I trust him?
When is the last time a reliever pitched high volume innings in the postseason who finished the season in a slump? Doesn't happen. Doesn't happen.
No, you
now,
just
if
don't
you
put him
had
on
a
your
bad
roster.
first half,
Yeah.
you had a bad first half, and you finished out the second half hot,
Yeah.
then we're going to carry you and we're going to trust you.
Right.
But with relievers, it's how you finish. A starter may be able to get a start when he had 2 or 3 bad starts at the end of the season. But relievers, no, I'm not putting you in high volume, high leverage situations when, man, you finish out the season bad.
No doubt. Rob Long is with us here on GCR. Dude, I just want to do a couple minutes on basketball with you because we were talking a minute ago. I am openly, like, rooting for the Timberwolves. I love everything about them. The way they play, how fun they are. There's the little Baltimore connection with Tim Connolly putting the team together. But, like, dude, it's a complete basketball team. Yes, Anthony Edwards is a freak, and does things that other humans can't do. But it's a complete basketball team that really plays basketball. And, to call them throwback, I don't even know if it's fair. Like, they are throwback plus to me because it's throwback plus a level of athleticism that even though some of those teams in the 90s didn't have.
Well, you can give me all the reasons to love them, and they may all be valid, but I got one. I'm in love with Anthony Edwards.
Yeah, he's unreal.
I mean, I got one. I mean, I'll watch Anthony Edwards all year long. Anthony Edwards may have brought me back. I'm that guy that just watches the postseason now with the NBA because I'm the old dude who believes that it wasn't played like it was played in my prime. But Anthony Edwards may have just brought me back to the regular season.
Dude,
he may have just made me a Minnesota T-Wolves fan just because he's there. This guy is only 6'4". Only 6'4".
And he can fly.
And he blocks He blocks shots. Yeah. He has rim-rattling, disrespectful dunks. I mean, he's just disrespectful with it. Like, I know you're here. I just don't care. That's what I love about him. See, there was an element of disrespect on dunks in the 80s and 90s. And then we just got to the point where we only have rim-rattling dunks like that on fast breaks. Anthony Edwards is going to tell you, excuse me.
Yep.
That's the thing I hate about Ja Morant falling off because he was that kind too. Ja Morant was a throwback player as well. I hope he bounces back and gets his life together. But it's just something about the guys that are under 6'6". When they can ball like that and bring it down on you, I love them. And I'm pulling for the T-Wolves all the way. And I think if they face the Boston Celtics, I think they'll beat the Celtics because, as I've been saying on radio, I think the Celtics are soft in the middle. And I don't mean by the guys that play center and power forward. I mean, I think each individual is soft in the middle. I think each of those guys, man, they're soft in the middle. And I think they're mental little people because you can't say the M word anymore. You know what I mean? They're mental little people and the M word as in for little people. So I just think they are they're soft, man.
I said a minute ago, I'm a little bit worried about how easy their path has been, that, like, they're just well-rested. But, yeah, to your point, like, this is a different – what's about to be thrown at you if you face the Timberwolves is a completely different thing. Like, you are not
right.
– and the Nuggets felt that, right? Like, the Nuggets are well-coached and have a unicorn in the middle, and they got rattled by it. Like, they didn't know what to expect. And so, yeah, I think you're onto something with – how are the Celtics going to handle that? Because they aren't as battle-tested. They aren't nearly as tough as the Nuggets.
I heard an announcer say this morning that the Nuggets played a little laissez-faire in the second half and started turning the ball over. I disagree with that.
Yeah.
I think the Timberwolves turned up the pressure on them.
Right. They came at
I
them.
think I don't think you can – I think you're trying to make excuses for the Denver Nuggets. I think you better look at that game again.
Yeah.
I think the T-Wolves turned it up. And I think like most others, when they turn it up and play on that level, I don't know any other team that can match that level. Because it goes back to what you said before, they're a complete team.
Did I see you got a birthday coming up this week?
Wednesday.
Happy birthday, bro. Dude, this is
Thank
how
you, –
and I hate giving you credit. This is how good you look. I genuinely don't even know how old you are anymore. Like, this is the – I used to have a feel for it years ago. I don't even know how old you are anymore because you've looked the exact same for 20 years at this point. Like,
dude,
other than, you lost weight, right? Like, other than that, you look the exact same.
My kids are grown. We got a nurse and 2 teachers. I'm doing what I love in radio, TV, and coaching. It's hard to get old when you wake up every morning doing what you love.
Hey, bro, I'm happy for you. You know that. You know how much I love you. I know the radio show this week. Are you MASN this week too, or what's the deal?
I'm soloing today. I was Thursday, Friday, today, and tomorrow. I'm solo. Jeremy comes back, and I'm gonna be out for the rest of the week.
Yeah,
this is actually supposed to be my entire week of vacation.
Oh, and then everybody else.
And
they're all on different types of drugs. They're all doing at Rob Long.
You're so right,
bro.
You're so right.
I mean, they're all. I love you, buddy. Always appreciate you. Thanks for hopping on this morning. Dude.
Love you too, man. Take it easy.
All right, man. That's Rob Long, 105.7 The Fan and MASN, of course, where you can find him. Why don't we do tidbit real quick? We'll do tidbit real quick here, and then we'll take a break and we'll talk to Mark Sweeney, and then we'll wrap up the show by getting tubular. Tidbit is brought to you today by Sports and Social, the best place to watch all of the big events, all the postseason action, of course. And you can always watch the fights there, although I haven't even had a chance to, like, get my thoughts together about the Tyson Fury thing from the weekend, other than him screaming out Happy New Year afterwards.
Oh, yeah, it's the New Year. I think he's talking about when they fight,
but that's
when the rematch happens.
Is there something about that in Riyadh? Like, is that the part that we don't know? Because we're all thinking that it's CTE or he had a concussion or something like that after the fight. But is there something, because the fight was in Saudi Arabia, and I think they call it like Riyadh season. Do they say Happy New Year around there? Like, I don't want to go that direction if we find out later that, like, it actually made sense, but I don't know how it would make sense.
I don't know.
You're not coming up with anything?
I'm not seeing anything.
He yelled out Happy New Year after he said he thought he won the fight. He claimed that they said Usyk won the fight because there's a war, and so the judges felt sorry for him.
Okay.
That was the point that Tyson. Now, I did not get to watch any of the fight, so I don't know. I saw, like, the clips that I've seen did not look good. Like,
I think Usyk won.
So afterwards, he's like, I think I won the fight, but good on you, Usyk. Thanks for coming out. Happy New Year. I was like, what? What? Not great. Anyway, watch all the fights, including the stupid Mike Tyson thing later this summer. You can watch all that at Sports and Social. Yeah, did you hear that? Sure.
For Serrano.
Yeah, watch them all at Sports and Social inside Live Casino and Hotel, just steps away from the FanDuel Sportsbook, the giant media wall, the great food and drink specials, and an atmosphere that is unparalleled for sports fans at Sports and Social. What you got?
There will be no former or reigning MVPs in the NBA Conference Finals for the first time, according to OptaStats, for the first time since the award has been handed out back in 1956. We have no former MVP left in the playoffs anymore. So it's just pretty crazy. I feel like a lot of people have been talking about the parity in basketball, obviously in the NBA, and over the last 6 years now, because there'll be no repeat champion for the last 6 years. Nuggets have been held to 90 points or fewer 6 times this season. 4 of those games came in this.
I did see that. That's crazy.
Came in this series.
That's crazy.
Nuts. 3.
And then four against Minnesota.
Yeah, 3 in this series.
Yeah.
3 in this series. So, the Timberwolves seem to have their number. So the Terps are going to the Final Four in lacrosse.
Yes.
For a record-tying across all lacrosse teams, a 29th time. This will be their 29th. What happened to my order? Okay, yeah, 29th time making the semifinals, the Final Four in college lacrosse. Can you name all the teams that have been to double-digit Final Fours, and of course,
ever?
Maryland, yes,
ever,
and who Maryland is tied with?
All right,
most
Final Four. So how many am I looking for total?
We are looking for. Sorry, this is the part where I should count 8. 7.
7. Maryland's one of them.
Yes.
All right, so Syracuse.
Syracuse is not who Maryland's tied with, but yes, they have the 3rd most Final Four appearances.
Hopkins.
Hopkins is who Maryland is tied with now. 29 Final Fours as they came just a goal short.
Princeton.
I guess 2 goals short. Yes, Princeton. Princeton is just inside 11.
Virginia.
Virginia, yes, 25.
I believe Duke has gotten there now. Duke
has gotten there. 14 for the 7th most.
So the last 2 to me, like, I'm torn between a few. North Carolina.
North Carolina is, in fact, one of the top 8. 14 times as well. Tied with Duke. One more tied with Carolina and Duke with 14 Final Four appearances.
14.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, I have the team that I really think that it is. I'm gonna write down 3 because the one at the top is the one that I believe it to be, but then the other 2 I believe the answer is Cornell.
That is the correct answer.
All right, thank
It
God.
is Cornell.
Thank God.
It is Cornell.
I
So
was-
do you think the next two might be the next two?
Well, I don't know what the next two. I just was going to feel really stupid if it was Navy or Loyola. Like, I was going to feel really stupid about that.
Yeah, it is not Navy
Yeah,
or Loyola.
yeah.
Navy does have the 9th most, though. They have 8 Final Fours.
Okay.
Loyola has 4. They are 12th.
I guess they've been pretty much, all or nothing. 2 trips to the championship game. And so then the others would be...
Well, I mean, you have the
whatever.
top
I got it.
eight. You have the top
I'm
eight.
good. I'm good. Who cares who the others are?
Notre
Who
Dame
cares? Yeah, Notre Dame at this point. That makes
rounds
sense.
out the top 10.
Okay, very good.
Then Denver 11th.
Very
Head of Loyola now.
Very good. So I saw this going around yesterday. Hang on a second. This was from... Where did I get this from? From Jomi Ediniran on Twitter.
Jomi.
Yeah, old Jomi. Since 2001-2002, every team in the East has made a conference finals except for 4. Who are the 4?
You're saying since 2002?
Since the 2001-2002 season. So the 2002 conference finals.
4 teams have not made it.
4 teams in the East have not made a
Wizards.
The Wizards, of course.
Because since we've been talking about them a lot, I was gonna jump to say, but did they make it in the in the mid 2000s? I'm gonna say the Sixers.
Yeah, the Sixers. That was the previous year was when they had made
Okay.
their run to the finals.
So there's 2 more in the East that have not made
Yeah.
the Eastern Conference Finals.
By the way, one floored me. I utterly forgot. No. I mean, one that wasn't on the list. The one that has made the finals. Charlotte, of course, has not made the finals. Yes, they're the 3rd.
So one floored you.
No, not one that was on the list. I mean, there was a team that I would have bet anything based on the that didn't make, and I had to go back and when the hell were they in one?
I don't know. I'm almost because I know that the Magic obviously it's not the Magic.
We got to do this quicker because we got to
okay,
get it.
yeah.
Well, I mean, we're supposed to take a break. I guess we could push break to the other side, but
all right. I think it's conference final. I think it's the Knicks.
It's the New York Knicks.
Okay.
It's exactly who it is. It's the New York Knicks. So the one that I would have guessed, the Chicago Bulls. I could not believe that they made an Eastern Conference Final post Jordan. I could not. In 2011,
so
they played the Miami Heat in the conference finals. I just have no memory of that whatsoever. I don't remember it.
Was hurt already at this point, maybe?
I don't. I remember that. I remember them being really. I remember them being really good. That's I remember them being a very good team. I just don't remember them making a conference final. And they did. They lost 4-1 in the conference. They were knocked out in 5 games. It's a completely unmemorable conference final.
When did Derrick Rose get hurt?
I don't know. I don't know what the story was. All right, but yes, you got the 4. Very good.
Thank you.
When we come back in, we're going to preview the Cardinals. Mark Sweeney, one of their color analysts, will join us next as we get ready for Orioles-Cardinals starting tonight on Glenn Clark Radio.
The ultimate fan experience awaits you at Sports and Social Maryland. See how we're raising the sports bar with our massive 100-foot media wall featuring 40 HD TVs and a 47-foot big screen. Bet on your favorite teams and this year's biggest events at the FanDuel Sportsbook while enjoying your favorite beers and cocktails, plus our delicious takes on bar food classics. Visit Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Hagerstown, Maryland, a snapshot of American history that dates back centuries. Today, the roots of the city expand with another historical moment, the grand opening of Meredith Park, Hagerstown's new event stadium and home to the Atlantic League Flying Boxcars. Experience the energy, culture, and adventure. Plan your getaway today at America's newest and most innovative ballpark. You're welcome in Hagerstown, Maryland. Visit Hagerstown.com.
Hungry? With 7 locations throughout Maryland, Glory Days Grill is always right around the corner. They have wings, burgers, salads, sandwiches, and drinks to satisfy everyone, as well as tons of televisions and sound delivered right to your phone. Glory Days is the best place to watch football or whatever your favorite sport is. While you're there, be sure to check out Goose Flights Lager, named in honor of legendary Raven Tony Goose Siragusa. $2 of every can is donated to the Goose Flights Foundation. Glory Days Grill. Great food, good sports.
The votes were all counted, and the results are official. Royal Farms was named #1 for food in the USA Today 10 Best poll. receiving more votes than any other convenience store chain in America. The next time you want to get some good food fast, doesn't it make sense to go to Royal Farms? Voted best in the USA and home of world-famous chicken. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines, so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
What company has the expertise to make your home healthier by purifying your air and killing all viruses, allergens, and bacteria? A.J. Michaels, Heating and Air Conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis, ajmichaels.com.
Coming back in here with Glenn and the other guy, Garrett, whatever his name is. You know who they are.
All right, back in here on GCR as we are winding down for a Monday edition of the program. Appreciate y'all getting in your 3 up, 3 down. We'll get those up at glennclarkradio.com a little bit later on. Continue to share them with me throughout the course of the day. I don't have a column today at PressBoxOnline.com. Again, I was traveling yesterday. I thought I brought my computer with me with the idea of writing on the train on the way home. That wouldn't have worked anyway because my son was sleeping on my lap, and so I wouldn't have been. But I also forgot my charger for the computer, so it just didn't happen. I'm going to write something today. I'm going to write kind of about the future of the Preakness and some of the stuff related to Pimlico. If you missed it, obviously, on set. If you missed it. Seize the Gray won the Preakness on Saturday, so there will be no Triple Crown at stake when they go up to Saratoga, actually, in a few weeks, not Belmont, for the running of the Belmont Stakes this year. But much more about like the future of Pimlico Plus and things like that and what I envision that to be. I think that's what I'm going to be writing about for tomorrow at PressBoxOnline.com. All right, Orioles-Cardinals open up a series down in St. Louis that begins tonight. Dean Kramer, Sonny Gray, the pitching matchup there. Joining us now to preview that series, one of the Cardinals color analysts. He is the Sween Dog, Mark Sweeney, and he is with us here on GCR. Mark, it's Glenn in Baltimore. It's great to catch up, man. Thank you for taking the time for us this morning.
Glenn, I appreciate you having me on. This should be a really good series and obviously a good pitching matchup to start it off.
Yeah, good one there. Mark, in general, I guess I say what's going on with the Cardinals. I don't want to pretend like they're woeful or they're miserable, but I don't know what to make of it, right? Like, it's a Cardinals team that the last couple of years has been disappointing, and I just don't know what the path forward is with the St. Louis Cardinals right now.
Yeah, Glenn, I think it was just getting off to a start where they were really trying to prevent that. And because of the year last year, only 71 wins, and trying to change that narrative, the offense really didn't get off to a very good start. They've had some really good pitching performances that have been falling from the wayside because they haven't been able to score runs consistently. That being said, it really becomes the focus starts getting on Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado, and their injury to Contreras, which really magnifies the problem when you're not getting off to a good start with your stars.
No, I understand. That's just sort of like the value of that is so significant, and I guess at some point the questions start coming the other way, right? Like, is Oliver Marmol in trouble? Is there a thought process about July? Like, I know that those decisions don't get made today, but at some point they'll obviously have to be made, right?
I think it's understandable to say that they've set a standard in St. Louis to be able to go out there and try to win the division, try to be the marquee team in that division, and that's fallen from the wayside. So when you have those high expectations, as you could say the Baltimore Orioles set for themselves last year, you have those certain expectations you have to meet. And when you don't meet them, I think a passionate fan base definitely starts turning on that situation. You feel the undertones of that But also you understand too, there's people out there that really believe in Ollie Marmol. I think it has to do with exactly what I just said, having the ability to have your stars go out there and perform, and then have some of the younger players start maturing in the game, which they've had in recent success the last few weeks.
So to that point, right, like they have won 5 out of their last 7 coming into this series. What has gone particularly right that could allow this to be a turning point for the Cardinals?
Yeah, you start seeing a little bit of the consistency with the offense. You're not seeing them trying to swing for home runs, which I think a lot of players make that mistake of trying to individually get off to a good start, and then that falls by the wayside, and you settle into, okay, what am I as a group? This team hits line drives. They stay in the strike zone when they're very good, and they've started to do that on a consistent basis. They're taking their walks, which don't want to brag about walks, but you have to set up opportunities. I also think, Glenn, in baseball, when teams are struggling and they're struggling for a consistent manner, it's the runners in scoring position. It becomes a real big problem if you're not consistent in that manner. And I think it has to do with the process that they have. They've been better at it. They haven't still been good because it was such a bad start to the season in that category especially. I think they're starting to get in the strike zone more. They're forcing the issues a little bit, and they're starting to get more consistent at bats. You're starting to see Paul Goldschmidt come out of it, which I think is a really good sign. But offensively, they're going to have to win you games because I think pitching south of Sonny Gray, you don't have a lot of swing and miss in that rotation. And when you don't have that, I think you have to start scoring runs, 4 or 5 runs, occasionally 6 or 7 runs to help this pitching staff.
Obviously, Sonny Gray, who's been outstanding, gets the start tonight against Dean Kramer. One of those guys in that rotation, an old friend of ours, and we mean that. Kyle Gibson, to me, is like one of the most likable guys that we've come across in Baltimore. He showed up on day one and was trying to do stuff for this community and getting invested and getting involved and hosting events. And, he wasn't great necessarily, but was just so likable and really, to me, did play a significant role for the team in changing the culture in that way, even if he wasn't great. I know, again, the numbers aren't great necessarily for Kyle Gibson to start the season, but it looks like, other than the team not being quite as good, this story appears to be about the same in St. Louis.
Yeah, and you just set up a whole structure of what the Cardinals really needed in their rotation. Last year went really wrong. And when you bring in a Kyle Gibson that's a professional, that you root for him, all of the prerequisites of being a guy that's a good teammate, also on and off the field, there's value in that. And also, I don't want to minimize his ability because it. He won a lot of games for the Orioles last year. He knows how to win. And if he has a big inning and gives up a big inning, he knows he has to save the bullpen, and he takes those innings and he flourishes in those. So I love the fact that he is a compliment to the pitching staff. He adds value to Sonny Gray because what Sonny does on the field in representing himself and how he goes about his business, Kyle does that when he's on the mound and when he's in the locker room. And that is a lot of value that I think in this game is minimized, and it shouldn't be.
All right, so let's get to the important stuff. What do you want for Helsley? Like, what's it gonna take? Let's get out of the way now because we're already talking about him here in Baltimore, and it's not it's not specifically him. We think but it seems like he would check all the boxes for what the Orioles might be looking for in a closer at the deadline.
He does check the boxes. I'll tell you this. He went 8 straight days without pitching, and that's not a good sign if you're trying to win a lot of games.
Not great, right.
Because he has been brilliant. But after those 8 games, you were thinking, okay, he probably doesn't have his breaking ball. He still has 101 on his fastball and has the ability to miss bats. But he broke out the best sliders he's had all year long. He dominated. I think it was 11 pitch save opportunity, and he struck out 2 and gave up a weak fly ball. This is a guy that is obviously probably the cream of the crop. He's in the top 5 in closers in baseball, but he has the ability to do it in different ways. He can beat you with the fastball, but also he has an out pitch in the breaking ball too. So I think the Cardinals, if they put on a good run, are going to keep him.
Yeah, of course.
But if they slip at all, Glenn, I think that is definitely a commodity that I think baseball around not only the Orioles would covet, but a lot of people would.
Can you get any sense of if the Cardinals don't get things really, turned around in the next few weeks, they do still have another year for him before, they lose control. Is it safe to say they'd be looking for a ransom for Ryan Helsley, or do you feel like at some point they might be moving? I don't know that rebuild is ever a word that you use in St. Louis, so I don't know what this looks like. Is it they probably trade all their tradable commodities, or we'll trade him, but only if you're paying an exorbitant price for him?
Well, I think everyone tends to do that, right? Yeah. You're hearing about the closer for the Oakland A's. Everyone covets that arm too. And I think that's what everyone tends to do. That being said, I think you have to identify the teams that have higher end prospects that are upper levels. You're not going for a project, because you made a great point. St. Louis is not looking to rebuild. They're looking to restructure. They're trying to get to that point where they have the right pieces. And yes, you might be developing at the big league level, but I think that's where their mindset is as an organization, because they've set a standard of how they have to go about their business. So are they asking for king's ransom? I would say they probably start with that, but I think every team has that mindset of their players are better than everyone else's. And this is what you have to do to come get our coveted prize.
Mark, before I let you go, if I could, just a thought from you about what the Orioles have been doing and how close you feel like this franchise is to being capable of winning a World Series.
I think they're right there. Honestly, I love the fact that they challenged themselves last year. They looked the part when they got into the playoffs, and they have the pieces to go around that they don't fear their firsts anymore. They understand that now there's a reason for us to feel optimistic when we're playing solid baseball getting into October. We can challenge anyone. I don't think they fear anyone, and it's because of the players they have, the type of style they have. Gunnar Henderson needs to have more national recognition, in my opinion, because this is a guy, not only is he an MVP candidate, the guy plays the game the right way. And I think it all starts with Adley Rutschman, in my opinion, from an outsider's lens. I think that's the guy that sets a tone for what that organization is going about. But yes, they are very fearful around the league.
It's so funny what you say, because we talk about it a lot here. Like, yes, Gunnar Henderson might be an MVP candidate in the league, but to me, Adley Rutschman is the team's MVP. Like, it's just how significant he is, man.
I think that's a good sign, too, to be able to say that, because not only are you getting the caliber of all-star talent, but you also have a structure that if everyone comes up and does their part, we're going to go out there and have the game-winning home runs that Adley Rutschman had last week. You're going to have the ability to say, I challenged myself and just hop on my back. And a leader like that is very rare in the game of baseball.
Oh, he's incredible. He's absolutely incredible. Mark Sweeney, I don't understand how you never ended up getting a stint in Baltimore. I don't know how that never worked. Like, you checked every box for a player that would have ended up having, like Eric Burns got like 2 weeks here, right? Like, how did you never have a stint in Baltimore?
Well, Glenn, I tell you this. I'm a University of Maine guy, and I'm a Mike Bordick fan, true and true, because I did not play with Mike Bordick, but I wish I followed in his footsteps, because that's the guy that I absolutely love, the way he played the game.
One of our favorite humans we love, and is somebody who's remained committed to our city. A lot of Kyle Gibson with Bordy. He is right. He's a special breed.
It's so true.
And we got a lot of man in our lives because he and Gary Thorne were doing the games together for a few years, and so a lot of the broadcasts we're just talking about.
I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of Gary Thorne as well. But Mike Bordick is one of a kind.
Nah, he's the best. We love that guy. At SweenDog9 is how you follow him on Twitter. Mark Sweeney, thanks for taking the time for us today, man. We really appreciate it. We'd love to do it again down the road.
Glenn, thank you very much for having me. I love talking baseball.
Mark Sweeney with us here on GCR. Appreciate him doing that ahead of Orioles-Cardinals getting underway tonight. Yeah, Ryan Helsley is a name that I'm going to spend a little bit more time. I think when who was it that suggested Helsley, and then we ended up talking about it a couple weeks ago. Somebody we had on had 3 names that they suggested, and I can't remember what those 3 names were. It was Helsley. It was Romano.
Ryan Presley.
It might have been Presley. That might have been the third. And who was it? Who was it?
It was Bob Nightingale.
Bob Nightingale is exactly who it was. And I have kind of centered my focus around Helsley, acknowledging the part where, like, you know, it's going to cost you. Like, he does have another year of control. It's going to cost you a little bit.
Probably similar to whatever Romano, if he's
right.
touchable.
Correct. Because we found out Romano has another year of control too. But I feel like the Cardinals might be more in the place of let's go ahead and trade the tradable assets, load up, than like say the Blue Jays would be. That's just sort of the gut that I have about that. That's fun. The microphone's doing that thing again. That's fun. That's neat. Oh, what was that? Did you fix it? Did you fix it?
Maybe.
All right. Well, we'll work on that after the show. Hooray! Hooray! Always enjoy that. All right. We are winding down for a Monday edition of GCR, but Grant, that means that we need to do this as it's time to get totally tubular. Yeah. We'll edit all this out before it ever reaches air. We gotta lock this up.
There is a place where tradition, family, and community gather, where the aspirations of talented young competitors takes root, and where the crossroads of history, culture, and renewal come together. This spring, experience America's newest and most innovative ballpark, Meritus Park in Hagerstown, Maryland, home of the Atlantic League Flying Boxcars. Plan your getaway today. You're welcome in Hagerstown, Maryland.
All right, here's what's coming up tonight, totally tubular-wise. As we mentioned, Orioles-Cardinals, the first of a 3-game set. Dean Kramer, Sonny Gray, the pitching matchup. 7:45 is when that game gets underway on MASN 2. It'll be 7:45 tonight and tomorrow. It's an afternoon game on Wednesday, right? It's I believe it's 1:15, if I remember correctly, which is nice because it's like 12:15. So I was expecting to be later in the afternoon. 1:15 on Wednesday for the final game of the series. Game 7 tonight between the Oilers and Canucks. The last what?
You're
well, hey man, you know I still can't believe they lost because they were loaded. They were just loaded.
What a team that's loaded
Now,
loses.
ask me about anything moving forward.
How's Edmonton?
No idea.
What about
no earthly idea. Dallas,
Vancouver?
No clue. Vancouver, nothing.
Dallas just knocked off a team that was.
I know.
loaded.
Yeah, that's correct. I know. I hope that Boston loses. That's what I got for you.
They did.
They did?
Yeah.
Oh, right. It's the Rangers and
Rangers
the Rangers and the Panthers. Yeah, my bad.
They did.
My bad.
So
They
great.
did. Yay!
All right.
We got that. I was going to
I
be.
got news for you.
Yeah, right. I was going to be. If we were inundated with Boston S over the next couple of weeks, with like the Celtics and the Bruins both playing,
Like it was with like it was the Heat and the Panthers both in the finals.
yeah, but nobody cares about that. Like they're kind of adorable, right? Like look at you guys trying to get into the mix.
Yeah, I guess okay.
Like in Boston, it's infuriating because those people are awful to begin with.
But if it had been the Celtics and the Bruins both in the Stanley and NBA
it would have been unending. It's just all we would have been hit. We would have
But if
been
they both lost,
bashed over that. Yeah, that
on,
would have
like,
been
the
fun,
same
right?
night.
It would have been fun, but like being bashed over the head with it would have just been. I say that like I'm paying attention to any of this. I don't watch these networks. I don't know. But my God, I just can't deal with it. And I'm sure they'll do it with the Rangers as much as possible because clearly they were playing in the New York market with their basketball coverage, so they'll try to play in the New York market. It's all that stupid. Dude, these sports are better when the guard. I'm like, shut up.
Are they not better when the Garden is?
No,
No?
they're no
Oh,
different.
okay.
None. They're better in the New York. People in New York care more
Sports are better when
because
it's happening
their
in one
team.
arena.
Yeah, it's everybody's always saying. I actually meant to tweet that out yesterday. Like, dude, it's like I've always said, basketball's just better when the Pacers are involved. So stupid. Anyway, Game 7 tonight, 9 o'clock on ESPN for the Oilers and the Canucks. That's after you can make a whole night of it because they've got Caitlin Clark tonight at 7 o'clock.
Okay.
The Indiana Fever and Connecticut Sun, 7 o'clock on ESPN. I don't know that they do.
Okay.
I don't know that. We can double check on that, but I'm not sure
Grant's
if
all
they
over
do. Also on ESPN 3 tonight for the Seattle Storm and New York Liberty at 7 o'clock. MASN for Twins Nationals at 6:45. Baseball.
They're 0-3.
Ooh, that's it. Well, they can get the number 1 pick again next year, and they can add Paige Beckers to the. They could have, or no, maybe Juju wouldn't come out next year, right? Because
I don't think so.
She'd still be another year.
What are the rules?
I thought it was 3 years.
Then yeah, she would need.
I thought it was 3 years.
That's correct. Yeah.
So they could go Paige Beckers number 1 next year and just give the whole completely loaded, unreal lineup.
Figure it out in 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, right. MLB Network afternoon baseball today. Padres Braves getting underway right now. Then White Sox Blue Jays at 3:30. Diamondbacks Dodgers tonight at 10. ESPN Plus also has White Sox Blue Jays at 3. FS1 Tigers Royals tonight at 7:40, and the USA Network for WWE Monday Night Raw tonight at 8. Anything non-sports wise?
Big finale week. A lot of the network shows coming to a close. Master
Including
Chef
part 2 of the finale.
Oh,
Mrs.
part 2. Wow.
Mrs. Clark was not happy to find out it was a 2-parter. We got through it, and she thought it was just like a 2-hour thing, so like we could watch the other part of it. Friday night we were home. She was so excited, and then Hulu kept going to like an episode of Hell's Kitchen. She's like, "What the heck?" She was furious.
But it does mean it is the season 2 premiere of Race to Survive on USA right after Raw.
That's the Formula One.
No, it's this is like they're outside. They're like outside in the wilderness, and people are
nope,
trying
I'm
to.
not. What was the Formula One show called? What was that?
Drive to Survive.
There can't be Drive to Survive and Race to Survive.
Well, this one has to do with the wilderness.
Yeah, but somebody should have stepped in and said those are a little too similar. Maybe we don't.
USA Network has to do
maybe we don't do that. Is that really what it was called? Drive to Survive?
Yeah. Pretty sure.
It was called Drive to Survive, and this is called Race to Survive.
Race to Survive.
Dude, somebody loses their job over that. Like, you got to come up with anything else.
Maybe that's the idea, though. People are like, "What's the
yeah,
name of that F1 show?
They think they're watching the
Race
Formula One show, and then
races.
they're 5 minutes in. They're like, I haven't seen a single car in this entire show.
Are they in Alaska?
Yeah, very weird.
Vanderpump Villa season 1 finale on Hulu.
Oh, I'm so sad. I'm gonna miss it.
J-Lo and Tony Goldwyn will be on Jimmy Kimmel.
Who's Tony Goldwyn?
Tony Goldwyn was in Law & Order. It's also his birthday today.
Sure.
I never heard of him, but there's a bunch. He's in this movie called Ezra. There's a bunch of Bobby Cannavale plays a struggling stand-up comic, and his son Ezra has autism. It's a coming-of-age movie, and it's a very heartwarming.
It sounds
Robert
sweet.
De Niro is in it. Rose Byrne is in it as well.
He's been in a lot of things, but not a lot of things that I've watched.
Yeah, exactly. I looked at it. I was like, Law & Order?
He had a small role in King Richard, which I definitely watched, but I don't recognize. He was apparently in Oppenheimer.
Oh, really?
So a few things that I've watched.
I could probably, see how I...
Yeah, he just sort of slips in.
Yeah, Paul Scheer's going to be on Colbert tonight.
Oh, I like Paul Scheer. He's funny.
He's got a book.
He's a funny dude. Really?
He does.
We should try to get him. He used to come on a lot.
All right.
Because...
the Paul Scheer book.
He's like they used to ask for I swear like they would ask us to put the cast of the league on the show once a week every week.
Yeah.
Like every week they'd be like, can you have even Nick Kroll, like before he was a super famous they would ask constantly for us to put the guys from the league and I can't remember what her name is. Oh, I feel bad about that.
The girl from the league.
Yeah.
I can't remember any of them.
Katie Asselton was her name. But they would Steve Rannazzisi, they would ask and he would be the one that would do it the most. Like Steve Rannazzisi.
Which one was he?
He was Kevin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
They would ask us to have him on I swear once a week. But Paul did a lot of them. Like those guys would come on all the time. We could probably try. We could probably get him.
All
We
right,
could probably.
We'll dive into this.
I mean, I think it was FX that was pushing it on us, so I'd have to find somebody else to get in touch with him. But we could probably get him on. And I would. It's been a while. I haven't caught up with Paul Scheer in a bit. There was a moment. I think it was Bryant McKinney. We had the cast of the league at the table with us at the Super Bowl one year. It might have even been the New Orleans Super Bowl. And Bryant McKinney texted me because he wanted to come over to Radio Row. He had just never done it before. He was like, hey, dude, you're at Radio Row, right? I'm like, yeah. He's like, can I come over? And I'm like, aren't you getting ready to play in the Super Bowl? Like, shouldn't you be at practice? He was like, oh, no, we're done today at 3 o'clock. Can I just come over afterwards? And I was like, well, yeah, like, sure, cool. Of course, man, you can come over. And I remember I think it was maybe all of them were there that day. And I remember he wanted a picture, but he was afraid to ask them for a picture. So, because he was just like sitting in with me for the rest of the show that day, he was like, hey, dude, can you, like, after we finish, can you ask them to take a picture with us so I could have a picture with all of us? All right, bro, you got it. Like,
the biggest guy.
The most massive human being. You know what was crazy, though? Like, normally a player, it's very rare that a player in the game shows up to Radio Row because you get.
Nowadays, that would never.
Oh, it could never happen. But like, I remember the year the Patriots played the Giants, so the David Tyree, the first one, David Tyree.
6, 7.
Yeah, this was the Arizona Super Bowl. Adalius, who was playing for the Patriots at the time, wandered in the Radio Row and came and found Anita and came and found NST and came and found – I found him, actually, and dragged him over to do I was on Sporting News Radio at the time nationally. But, like, it was, even for Adalius Thomas, like, bedlam. Like, a player playing in the Super Bowl posting up at Radio Row, people were like, what the hell? And then, yeah, with Bryant McKinney, I was expecting the same thing. I'm like, dude, I don't know, man. Like, Nobody.
Is it just because
nobody? He walked in and like anonymity, I guess. But Adalius wasn't like a.
Yeah, I guess.
Like he wasn't he had signed a big contract in New England and they were undefeated, so like I guess that was. But like, dude, Bryant basically just waltzed in. Like he just very casually wandered over, and he was so happy to be there. I'm like, this is so random, dude. But he was a big entertainment person. Like he was a nerdy. Like he wanted to get into. He was making music and wanted to get into movies and stuff like that. So. He thought it was really cool. All right, anything else?
No, that is it.
Very good. Thanks today to Mark Sweeney. Thanks also to Rob Long, as well as to Anish Shroff. We'll get all that up in the greatest hits section of the
Oh, my God, it's so good.
tab at GlennClarkRadio.com. Tomorrow on the program, of course, our regular Tuesday stuff. Patrick Stevens will join us. We'll do it's penultimate appearances, I think, for both Patrick and for Wes and County Sports Zone Radio. And then Kyle Gibson's joining us tomorrow.
We'll go back out to St. Louis.
Very cool. And then I know you told me somebody else.
Tim Kirkchin.
Tim Kirkchin. Love Tim Kirkchin. He was working with Anish Shroff on Saturday night and has done a couple of Orioles games recently.
He did the lacrosse games too?
Yes, exactly right. Exactly right. All right, very good. Thanks to Grant. Grant, what are you doing? When are you going to be with us this week? Which shows are you doing?
Wednesday through Friday.
I think it'll just be Wednesday and Thursday. I think we
Just
might not
Wednesday
be doing
and
a show on Friday, but I think it'll be Wednesday. Yeah, I'm leaning towards. At this point, it would be it would require there being some guest that could only do Friday at this point that couldn't do it.
Paul Scheer can only do Friday.
I'd even probably bump Paul. It would require something more significant than even Paul Scheer, believe it or not, in order for us to do Friday. Like it would. I'm trying to think. Like if you said to me, hey, Lamar will come on Friday, then like, okay, we'll do a show on Friday.
Glenn, I'll call in.
Thank you, Grant. I appreciate that. That's big. Don't get me wrong, but I still think we're going to know. No. I'm going to probably take advantage of a 4-day weekend.
As you should.
I've had a lot of things I've needed to get done, and so I think I'm going to try to do that this week. But anyway, yes. Thank you, Grant. Appreciate your hard work. Thanks to everybody at Pressbox, all of our great sponsors and partners. Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Visit Hagerstown in Washington County. A.J. Michaels, Guilford Hall Brewery, Royal Farms. Ed Block Courage Awards, HelpMyGamblingProblem.org, Costa Sin, MSAA, the Maryland Jockey Club, Glory Days Grill, the Baltimore Orioles, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Thanks to Griffin at Griffin_Bass. Follow us, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Glenn Clark Radio. Have a great Monday night. Go Birds. Duke sucks.